I discovered my wife's affair with her training instructor and moved on until the man she chose over me arrived at my door. My name's Logan Price, and let me tell you something about marriage. It's like buying a house. You walk through it, see the good bones, imagine your future kids running through those hallways, and you sign on the dotted line thinking you've made the smartest investment of your life. Then one day you wake up and realize the foundation's been cracking for months, but you were too busy fixing everyone else's problems to notice your own walls were caving in. I thought my marriage was solid. Like, concrete reinforced, earthquake-proof, till death do us part solid. My wife Riley was the kind of woman who could juggle a conference call, pack Maya's lunch, and remember that Thursday was trash day, all while looking like she'd just stepped out of a Nordstrom catalog. Smart? Check. Funny? Absolutely. The kind of multitasker who could have given TED Talks on time management? You bet your ass. She was basically auditioning for Wife of the Year, and I was her biggest fan, sitting in the front row with my foam finger and everything. We'd been together almost a decade, 9 years, 7 months, and about 16 days, but who's counting? We'd survived the sleepless newborn phase, the terrible twos, the why is the sky blue threes, and we'd made it all the way to raising an 8-year-old daughter named Maya, who had more personality than a reality TV reunion show. We lived the quintessential suburban life in Seattle, complete with a white picket fence. Okay, it was actually gray because Riley said white was too on the nose. A golden retriever that ate everything except his actual dog food, and a mortgage payment that could legitimately give a healthy man chest pains. Our neighborhood was one of those places where everyone mowed their lawns on Saturday mornings and pretended to like their neighbors. You know the type. Karen 2 doors down would smile and wave while secretly judging your recycling habits, and Bob across the street thought his vintage Corvette made him interesting. Spoiler alert, it didn't. But we fit right in with our matching recycling bins and our happy family facade that looked perfect from the curb. Things were fine. And let me tell you, fine is the most dangerous word in the English language. It's the marital equivalent of we need to talk. When someone asks how your marriage is, and you say fine, what you really mean is, I haven't actually thought about it in 6 months because I'm too exhausted to evaluate whether I'm happy or just going through the motions. But I was too busy being Mr. Practical to notice the difference. I worked as a home renovation contractor, which is a fancy way of saying I spent my days building dream kitchens for people who had more money than sense. These folks would drop 40 grand on Italian marble countertops and then complain that the shade of white wasn't quite right. It's too warm, they'd say, squinting at perfectly good granite. Lady, it's white. It's literally all the colors combined. But I'd smile, nod, and order another slab because that's what paid for Maya's soccer cleats and Riley's increasingly expensive taste in organic everything. I'd come home every night smelling like sawdust and sweat, my work boots leaving little trails of construction site debris that Riley would sigh about, but never actually complain about. I was too tired to notice that she'd stopped asking about my day, too exhausted to see that her how was work had become as automatic as breathing, something you do without really thinking about it. Meanwhile, Riley had joined this fancy gym called Titan Fit because apparently the regular Planet Fitness down the street was too basic for her newly elevated fitness aspirations. She'd announced it over dinner one night like she was declaring her candidacy for public office. I'm investing in myself, she said, which I thought was great. Genuinely, I was all for it. Your wife wants to be healthier? Supportive husband right here. Your wife wants to feel good about herself? Absolutely. Babe, you do you. What I didn't know was that investing in herself apparently meant investing in someone else's attention. She started coming home glowing, and I don't mean the healthy post-workout glow. I mean the kind of glow that comes from someone actually seeing you, paying attention to you, making you feel like you're the only person in the room. The kind of glow I used to give her back when we were dating, and I'd drive 2 hours just to have coffee with her between her college classes. She'd walk through the door, cheeks flushed, ponytail swinging, talking about her training instructor like he was some kind of fitness prophet who descended from the heavens to teach mere mortals about the sacred art of the Bulgarian split squat. Tyler says form is everything, she'd announce, setting down her gym bag with this dreamy look in her eyes. Tyler says I'm making amazing progress. Tyler thinks I should try the advanced boot camp class. Tyler this. Tyler that. Tyler, Tyler. Yeah, Riley, form is everything. So is loyalty, but apparently that didn't come with the premium membership package. At first, I thought it was cute. Look at my wife, all excited about fitness. Good for her. She deserves to have hobbies and interests outside of being Maya's mom and my wife. That's healthy, right? That's what all those marriage podcasts talk about. Maintaining your individual identity, having your own passions, not losing yourself in the relationship. I was being a good, supportive, modern husband. What a fucking idiot I was. The signs were all there, bright as neon, flashing like a construction zone warning, but I was too busy installing subway tile backsplashes and picking up dry cleaning to connect the dots. She started doing her hair differently. Not for me, apparently, but for her 6 a.m. training sessions. She bought new workout clothes, the expensive kind from Lululemon that cost more than my tool belt. She'd check her phone and smile this secret little smile, then quickly put it face down on the counter like she'd just been caught doing something she shouldn't. But I was too tired to notice. Too caught up in the daily grind of being a dad, a husband, a contractor, a homeowner, a guy trying to keep all the plates spinning without dropping them on my head. I'd come home, kiss her on the cheek, ask about her day, listen to her go on about Tyler's revolutionary approach to core stability, and then I'd crash on the couch watching whatever action movie was on Netflix while she disappeared into the bathroom for increasingly long showers. Looking back now, with the beautiful clarity of hindsight, I can see every red flag waving in the breeze. But back then, I was just a guy who thought his marriage was solid, who trusted his wife, who believed that 9 years together meant something. I thought we'd built something that could weather any storm. Turns out, my marriage wasn't lifting dumbbells at all. It was already buried under them, suffocating under the weight of secrets and lies, and I was too blind to see the help sign my relationship was desperately holding up. But ignorance is bliss, right? And I was living in blissful ignorance, thinking everything was fine, thinking Riley's newfound obsession with fitness was just a harmless phase, thinking that Tyler was just some muscle-bound gym bro doing his job. Spoiler alert, it wasn't, and he wasn't. But I didn't know that yet. I was still Logan Price, husband, father, contractor, guy who thought he had it all figured out. I was still operating under the delusion that my marriage was as solid as the oak cabinets I installed. I had no idea that my entire world was about to crumble faster than drywall in an earthquake. One Thursday afternoon in late September, I got off work early. The Henderson's kitchen remodel was ahead of schedule for once, probably because Mrs. Henderson actually made decisions instead of changing her mind every 5 minutes like most of my clients. By 3 o'clock, I was packing up my tools, covered in grout dust, and thinking about how I could surprise Riley. Maybe grab some lunch, swing by that overpriced smoothie place she loved, the one that charged $12 for blended fruit and called it wellness in a cup. Yeah, I'd be that guy. The thoughtful husband showing up with protein smoothies and a smile, ready to be her hero for 5 whole minutes before she remembered I'd forgotten to take out the recycling on Tuesday. I was feeling pretty good about myself, honestly. Look at me, being spontaneous, being romantic, being the kind of husband who brings his wife her favorite acai bowl with extra hemp seeds, or whatever the hell was trending in the superfood world this week. I even practiced what I'd say in the truck on the way there. Hey babe, thought I'd surprise you. Casual. Cool. Not trying too hard. Just a guy who loves his wife and wants to spend his rare free afternoon with her. The universe must have been laughing its ass off at me. I pulled into the Titan Fit parking lot. This place was ridiculous, by the way. It looked like someone had taken a regular gym and given it a yacht club makeover. Floor-to-ceiling windows, motivational quotes in fancy script along the walls, and a lobby that looked more like a spa reception area than a place where people sweat. Even the smell was different. Not that typical gym stench of old socks and broken dreams, but some kind of eucalyptus and ambition fragrance they probably pumped through the vents. I walked in carrying 2 smoothie cups like I was delivering hope and organic goodness, and the receptionist, this 20-something girl with a Titan Fit polo and a smile that could sell you a timeshare, looked at me like I'd just walked in wearing a Halloween costume in the middle of July. Her eyes went wide, her smile froze, and for a second, I swear I saw her soul leave her body and check the employee handbook for what to do in this exact situation. Hey, I said, because I'm nothing if not oblivious to social cues when I'm on a mission. I'm here for Riley Price. My wife. She's training with Tyler. The girl's face went through about 17 different emotions in 2 seconds flat. Oh, She glanced at someone behind the desk, another employee who suddenly became very interested in the computer screen in front of her. She's training in the back. The way she said training should have been my first clue. It was like when someone says sleeping, but they really mean passed out drunk on the bathroom floor. But I was too focused on my surprise mission to catch the warning sirens going off all around me. Cool. I'll just head back then, I said, all cheerful and stupid. Sir, actually, maybe you should, she started, but I was already walking past the desk, through the sea of treadmills and weight machines, following the signs toward the private training studios in the back. Because why would I wait at the desk like a normal person when I could personally deliver smoothies and ruin my entire life in one convenient location? I walked down this hallway lined with motivational posters. Push your limits. No pain, no gain. Stronger every day. And I remember thinking how ironic it would be if they had one that said, your marriage is a lie, just to complete the set. The private training studio had glass walls, which in hindsight seems like a terrible design choice for a place where people are presumably doing private things. But hey, what do I know? I just build kitchens. That's when I saw them. There she was. My wife. My Riley. The woman who'd promised to love, honor, and cherish me through sickness and health, richer or poorer, in good times and bad. Except right now, she was giggling like a teenager at a boy band concert while Tyler, Mr. Abs on Instagram himself, with his perfect hair and his tank top that was probably 2 sizes too small on purpose, stood approximately 3 inches away from her, his hands on her hips, adjusting her form, on some kind of squat situation that definitely didn't require that much physical contact. I stood there in the doorway, smoothies in hand, watching my marriage die in real time under fluorescent lighting and to the soundtrack of whatever top 40 garbage was playing through the gym speakers. I think it was that song about loving somebody. Real appropriate. Universe. Thanks for that. They were laughing about something. She touched his arm. He said something that made her throw her head back like he was the funniest person who'd ever lived. And I just stood there, frozen. My brain was doing that thing where it tries to make what you're seeing make sense, but the pieces won't fit together no matter how hard you try to force them. Maybe it's innocent. Maybe this is just how personal training works now. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe. Then he tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear, and something inside me just snapped. Wow, I said, my voice cutting through their little moment like a chainsaw through butter. Is that the new marital stretching technique, or does it just come with the premium membership package? They both jumped like I'd fired a starting pistol. Riley's face went from flushed and happy to pale and horrified so fast, I thought she might actually faint. Tyler took a step back, his perfect personal trainer composure cracking around the edges. Logan, Riley practically shrieked, her hands flying up like she'd been caught robbing a bank instead of just destroying our marriage. It's not what it looks like. I couldn't help it. I laughed. Not a happy laugh. More like the laugh of a man who's just realized he's been the punchline to a joke everyone else has been in on for months. Oh, good, I said, setting the smoothies down on a nearby bench because my hands were shaking and I was about 90% sure I was going to throw them. So you're just rehearsing for a fitness-themed soap opera? That's great. Real great. When's the premiere? I'll make sure to skip it. Logan, please, just let me explain. Riley started, taking a step toward me. Explain what exactly? I cut her off, surprised at how calm my voice sounded when everything inside me was screaming. Explain how your training instructor needs to be practically grinding on you to teach you proper form? Explain why you didn't mention that personal training had become so personal? Or maybe you want to explain why you've been coming home glowing like you just won the lottery when really you've been here playing grab ass with Captain America over here. Tyler, to his credit, or maybe his stupidity, tried to speak up. Man, look, this isn't. Oh, I'm sorry. I turned to him, and I could feel every ounce of my self-control working overtime to keep me from doing something I'd regret. Were you about to explain to me how sleeping with my wife is part of her fitness journey? Is infidelity part of the core workout plan? Does betrayal burn more calories than regular cardio? The silence that followed was deafening. Riley was crying now, mascara running down her face, looking nothing like the woman who'd been giggling 30 seconds ago. Tyler looked like he wanted the gym floor to open up and swallow him whole. And me? I felt like I was watching this whole scene from outside my body, like this was happening to someone else, some other poor idiot who thought bringing smoothies would make his wife happy. "I'm sorry," Riley whispered, and those two words somehow made everything worse. I shook my head, backing toward the door. "Yeah, me too." I walked out of that gym like I was walking through water. Everything felt slow and heavy and wrong. The receptionist didn't make eye contact as I passed. The other gym members pretended not to stare. Someone's dropped weight hit the floor with a crash that echoed through my skull. I made it to my truck before the reality really hit me. I sat there in the parking lot, hands on the steering wheel, staring at nothing, while my phone started buzzing with texts from Riley. I didn't read them. Couldn't. All I could think about was how I'd spent the drive over practicing my surprise greeting, how I'd been so proud of myself for being thoughtful, how those $12 smoothies were probably melting on some bench in a training studio where my marriage had just died. I wasn't angry. Okay, that's a lie. I was furious. But more than that, I felt like the world's biggest idiot. A complete joke. The clueless husband standing in work boots and construction dust in a sea of yoga pants and protein shakes, holding evidence of my own stupidity in two eco-friendly cups. And the worst part? I'd paid for a parking validation on my way in. I drove around for 2 hours before I could bring myself to go home. Just circled the city like a lost dog, passing strip malls and coffee shops and all those familiar landmarks that suddenly felt foreign. Everything looked the same, but nothing was the same, you know? It's like when you say a word over and over until it stops making sense. That was my entire life now. Familiar but meaningless, recognizable but completely alien. By the time I pulled into our driveway, it was almost 6. Riley's car was already there, which meant she'd rushed home to beat me. Probably spent the whole drive rehearsing her excuses, workshopping her apologies, figuring out which tears would be most effective. I sat in my truck for another 10 minutes, staring at our house. Our home, the place we'd painted together, where we'd brought Maya home as a newborn, where we'd celebrated birthdays and holidays and all those mundane Tuesday nights that somehow added up to a life. Funny how a building can hold so many memories and still feel completely empty. When I finally walked in, Riley was pacing the living room like a defense attorney preparing for closing arguments. She'd changed out of her workout clothes into jeans and one of my old college sweatshirts, which felt like a calculated move. "Look, I'm still your wife. I still wear your clothes. We're still us. Except we weren't." "Logan," she started the second I closed the door, her voice shaking. "Please, just let me explain. We need to talk about this." I walked past her into the kitchen, headed straight for the fridge, grabbed a beer. "Where's Maya?" I asked, because that was the only thing that mattered now. "At Sophie's house. Sleepover. I thought we might need time to." "Good." I cut her off, twisting the cap off my beer. "So she doesn't have to hear this." Riley followed me, hovering in the doorway like she was afraid to come too close. "Smart woman." "It was emotional," she said, and I could hear the desperation in her voice. "I just felt unseen, Logan. You're always working, always tired, and Tyler, he listened to me. He made me feel." I laughed. Actually laughed. The sound came out harsh and bitter, nothing like my normal laugh. "Oh, that's beautiful. Really, let me make sure I understand this correctly. You felt unseen, so you decided the best solution was to be seen by someone else? Someone who, let me check my notes here, isn't your husband? That's not fair." "Fair." I turned to face her, and she actually stepped back. "You want to talk about fair? Is it fair that I've been busting my ass 6 days a week to pay for this house, for Maya's school, for your fancy gym membership, so you could feel seen by some douchebag with washboard abs? Is it fair that I'm thinking my wife was just really into fitness, when really she was just really into her trainer?" "It wasn't like that," Riley said, tears streaming down her face now. Full waterworks. The same tears that used to make me want to fix everything, make it better, be her hero. Now they just made me tired. "Then what was it like, Riley? Enlighten me. Paint me a picture of how this whole thing went down, because from where I'm standing, it looks pretty fucking clear." She wrapped her arms around herself, and I could see her trying to find the right words. The words that would make this okay, that would somehow rewind time and undo what I'd seen. We didn't. It wasn't physical at first. We just talked. He understood me. And then one day, things just crossed a line. "I know I messed up, Logan. I know it. But it was a mistake. One mistake. It doesn't have to end everything we've built. One mistake, I repeated, setting my beard down before I threw it. How long? What? How long? I enunciated each word like I was talking to a child. How long has this one mistake been going on? She hesitated. That hesitation told me everything I needed to know. 3 months, she whispered. 3 months. 90 days. 12 weeks. All those mornings she'd kissed me goodbye and headed to the gym. All those evenings she'd come home glowing, talking about Tyler like he was just her trainer. All those nights she'd been distant in bed, claiming she was tired from her workouts. 3 months of lies stacked on top of lies, building a tower of bullshit so high I never saw it until it collapsed on my head. Get out, I said quietly. Logan, please. Get out. Louder this time. Pack your shit and get out of my house. This is my house too. You can't just kick me out because you're angry. Watch me, I said, and something in my voice must have convinced her I was serious because she actually backed up another step. You want to talk about what's fair? Fine. What's fair is you taking your emotional crisis and your gym crush and whatever other bullshit you're selling yourself to sleep at night, and you leave. Tonight. Right now. Go stay with your sister. Go stay with Tyler for all I care, but you don't sleep under this roof anymore. What about Maya? You can't keep her from me. I'm not keeping her from you, I said, and I felt something crack open in my chest saying it out loud. You're her mother. We'll figure out custody, visitation, all that legal crap. But you and me? We're done. There's no couples therapy, no second chances, no working through this. You made your choice when you decided to start screwing your personal trainer. Now I'm making mine. She was full-on sobbing now, mascara everywhere, snot running down her face, looking nothing like the woman who'd been giggling in that gym studio a few hours ago. It was a mistake, Logan. I love you. I love our family. Please don't throw away 9 years over one mistake. I looked at her, really looked at her, and tried to find the woman I'd married, the woman I'd loved enough to promise my whole life to. But all I could see was a stranger who'd been living in my house, sleeping in my bed, lying to my face for 3 months straight. You know what's ironic? I said, my voice dropping to something cold and detached. You felt unseen. Well, congratulations, babe. Now I can't unsee you with your hands all over that guy. So yeah, mission accomplished. I see you now. I see you real clear. She tried to say something else, but I held up my hand. I'm going upstairs. When I come back down, I want you gone. Take whatever you can fit in your car tonight. We'll deal with the rest later through lawyers. Logan, I'm not doing this anymore tonight, Riley. I can't. I can't. I walked upstairs, went into our bedroom, my bedroom now, I guess, and closed the door. I sat on the edge of the bed we'd shared for nearly a decade and listened to her move around downstairs. Drawers opening and closing, hangers scraping, the front door opening and slamming, her car starting, the sound of her driving away, and then silence. I sat there for a long time, staring at the wall, at the framed photos of our wedding, of Maya's birth, of Christmases and vacations, and all those frozen moments when we were happy, or when I thought we were happy. Now I'd spend the rest of my life wondering which smiles were real and which ones were just practice for the lies that came later. Maya was at a sleepover. Riley was gone. The house was empty except for me and the ghost of a marriage I'd thought was solid. I walked back downstairs, saw the gaps where her things used to be. I sat there until 3 in the morning, nursing the same beer that had gone warm hours ago, wondering how the hell I was going to explain to Maya that Mommy wasn't going to live here anymore. Wondering if I'd ever trust anyone again. Wondering if I'd been a bad husband, if I'd missed signs, if there was something I could have done differently. But mostly, I just sat there thinking about how a man could go from husband to guy who pays child support in one afternoon. From life partner to single dad. From we to me. And I thought, yeah, Riley, I was the receipt you couldn't return. But at least receipts have value as proof of purchase. What did she have now? A personal trainer who'd probably already moved on to his next client, and the satisfaction of destroying the best thing she ever had. As the sun started coming up, I finally threw away that bowl of uneaten pasta and made myself a promise. I'd survive this. I'd rebuild. And someday, somehow, I'd be okay again. But first, I had to learn how to breathe without feeling like someone was standing on my chest. Months passed. That's the thing nobody tells you about grief. It doesn't have an expiration date. There's no finish line where someone hands you a medal and says, Congratulations, you've successfully gotten over your wife banging her personal trainer. The world just keeps spinning, bills keep coming, and you're expected to show up and function like a normal human being when inside you feel like a bunch of broken parts taped together with spite and caffeine. I got the custody arrangements sorted out with lawyers who charged $300 an hour to tell us what we could have figured out ourselves if we weren't too busy being passive-aggressive through legal documents. Riley got Maya every other weekend and Wednesday nights. I got the house, the mortgage that came with it, and the pleasure of explaining to an 8-year-old why mommy wasn't tucking her in every night anymore. That last part was the real killer. Watching Maya's face crumble when we sat her down, trying to use words like complicated and grown-up problems, when what we really meant was mommy made some bad choices and now everyone gets to be miserable about it. But kids are resilient, right? That's what everyone kept telling me. Kids bounce back. She'll adjust. Children are more adaptable than you think. Yeah, well, tell that to Maya when she was crying herself to sleep asking if it was her fault. Tell that to me when I was sitting outside her bedroom door at midnight, listening to her sob into her pillow, feeling like the world's most useless father because I couldn't fix this for her. I threw myself into being dad. Capital D dad. The kind of dad who showed up to every soccer practice, who knew the names of all her friends, who learned how to do a proper ponytail after watching 17 YouTube videos. I mastered the art of packing school lunches that didn't suck. Turns out kids don't actually want carrot sticks and hummus. They want the fruit snacks shaped like sharks. Who knew? I became a regular at parent-teacher conferences, PTA meetings, and those god-awful school fundraisers where you're guilted into buying overpriced wrapping paper for a cause you're not even sure exists. Work became my therapy. I'd lose myself in demolition, in the satisfying sound of a sledgehammer meeting drywall, in the precision of measuring twice and cutting once. There's something therapeutic about destruction when it's intentional, when you're tearing something down to build it back better. My clients loved me because I was always available, always willing to work late, always happy to take on one more project. What they didn't know was that I was just avoiding going home to an empty house that still smelled like Riley's perfume. I also started hitting the gym. Not tight and fit. Obviously, I'd rather get my teeth pulled without anesthesia than set foot in that den of betrayal again. I found a no-frills place called Iron Temple that smelled like old rubber and broken dreams, where nobody gave a shit about your form or your feelings. Just a bunch of guys and women lifting heavy things and putting them back down, united in our collective understanding that sometimes you need to punch your problems, except society frowns on actual punching, so you bench press instead. The gym became my church. I'd go at 5 in the morning before Maya woke up, pushing myself until my muscles screamed and my brain finally shut up about Riley and Tyler and 3 months of lies. I discovered that physical pain is way easier to deal with than emotional pain. You can ice a sore muscle. You can't ice a broken heart, though I'm pretty sure I tried a few times with varying amounts of whiskey. Every time I passed the yoga mat aisle at Target, because of course Target has to have every damn thing in the world, I'd twitch. Like a war veteran hearing fireworks. Yoga mats meant gyms, meant trainers, meant Tyler, meant Riley, meant my entire life imploding. So I'd steer my cart away from athletic equipment and head straight to the cereal aisle where the worst thing that could happen was choosing between 16 types of Cheerios. My coworker Jake tried his best to cheer me up. Jake was one of those perpetually optimistic guys who believed every cloud had a silver lining and every disaster was just a blessing in disguise. He'd show up at job sites with coffee and unsolicited life advice, like a motivational poster that wouldn't leave you alone. Bro, he said one day while we were installing cabinets at the Johnson's place. Think of it this way. You lost 160 pounds of emotional baggage named Riley. That's like the best weight loss program ever. And you didn't even have to give up carbs. I hammered in another screw, maybe a little harder than necessary. Yeah, Jake. Except I still have to pay her half my savings in the divorce settlement. So who's the real winner here? Spoiler alert. It's the lawyers. It's always the lawyers. At least you get the house, he offered, trying to find that silver lining he was so sure existed. I get to keep paying a mortgage on a house that's too big for me and Maya. That's not winning. That's just losing more slowly. Jake handed me another screw. You're gonna be okay, man. I know it doesn't feel like it now, but you will. You're already doing the work. Hitting the gym, taking care of Maya, not stalking Riley's social media at 2 in the morning. I only did that once, I protested. Last week. It was for research purposes. Research on what? How to make yourself miserable. He had a point. I had checked Riley's Instagram at 2:17 in the morning on a Tuesday, only to find she'd posted some quote about self-love and new beginnings with a picture of a sunset. Real original, Riley. Nothing says, I've grown as a person, like a sunset and stolen wisdom from someone else's therapy session. I'd stared at that post for 20 minutes, reading the comments from her friends talking about how brave she was, how proud they were of her journey. Her journey, like she'd climbed Mount Everest instead of just climbing into bed with her trainer. I didn't comment. Didn't like it. Just closed the app and stared at my ceiling until my alarm went off at 5. Between school runs and job sites, between fixing clients' homes while mine fell apart, between pretending I was okay when I definitely wasn't, I started rebuilding myself. Slowly, painfully, like those time-lapse videos of flowers growing, except way less pretty and with significantly more cursing. I discovered I actually liked quiet evenings. No more walking on eggshells, wondering if Riley was texting Tyler. No more pretending I didn't notice when she'd suddenly password protect her phone. No more lying in bed next to someone who was physically present but mentally somewhere else entirely. Just me, Maya when she was home, and the peaceful silence of a house that was finally honest about what it contained. I learned how to cook something other than instant ramen and frozen pizza. Turns out YouTube has tutorials for everything, including how to make chicken parmesan that doesn't taste like cardboard. Maya became my taste tester, brutally honest in the way only 8-year-olds can be. It's good, Dad, but maybe less salt next time? Translation: this is borderline inedible, but I love you, so I'll eat it anyway. We had some disasters. The Great Spaghetti Incident of October, the Taco Tuesday that became Takeout Tuesday, but we also had wins. Small victories that felt massive when your whole life had been knocked off its foundation. I even started making dad jokes that Maya actually laughed at. Real laughs, not pity laughs. We'd be driving to school, and I'd say something stupid like, "What do you call a fake noodle?" "An impasta." And she'd groan and giggle at the same time, which is the holy grail of dad joke reactions. Those moments, Maya laughing in the passenger seat, sunlight coming through the windshield, the radio playing whatever pop song she was currently obsessed with. Those were the moments that reminded me why I was fighting so hard to keep my head above water. The gym regulars became my accidental support group. There was Marcus, a divorce attorney who ironically was going through his own divorce. There was Sandra, a single mom of 3 who had more energy at 6 a.m. than I had all day. There was old Pete, who'd been married 52 years before his wife passed, and came to the gym every morning because, as he said, sitting at home just reminds me she's gone. We didn't talk much, mostly just head nods and the occasional good set, man, but there was comfort in the shared understanding that we were all there trying to outrun our demons, one rep at a time. I started tracking my progress. Not just the weights I could lift or the miles I could run, but the days I made it through without checking Riley's social media. The mornings I woke up and didn't immediately feel that crushing weight on my chest. The moments when thinking about the betrayal didn't send me into a spiral. Small wins, tiny victories, progress measured in inches when I wanted miles. My house slowly stopped smelling like Riley's perfume. I repainted the bedroom, goodbye beige, hello charcoal gray, because nothing says new beginning like darker walls, apparently. I replaced the sheets we'd shared, got rid of the decorative pillows she'd insisted we needed. Spoiler, we never needed them. I turned her closet into storage for my tools and Maya's art supplies. Every change felt like reclaiming territory, taking back space that was mine. Maya adjusted, like everyone promised she would. She stopped crying every night, started smiling more, brought home art projects and spelling tests with gold stars. She'd tell me about her day at school, about how Emma said something funny at lunch, about how she scored a goal at soccer practice. And in those moments, life felt almost normal, almost okay, almost like we were going to survive this. Riley kept trying to talk to me. Texts about Maya, sure, but also texts about us. About how she'd changed, how therapy was helping, how she'd ended things with Tyler, how she hoped someday I could forgive her. I kept my responses short and civil. Maya needs new cleats. Parent-teacher conference is Thursday at 6. She has a sleepover at Emma's Saturday. Never anything personal. Never anything that gave her hope we were anything other than two people coordinating custody of a child we both loved. Because here's the truth nobody talks about. Forgiveness isn't a switch you flip. It's not a decision you make one Tuesday morning over coffee. It's this long, exhausting process of slowly letting go of anger while simultaneously trying not to drown in sadness. And I wasn't there yet. Maybe I'd never be there. Maybe the best I could hope for was peaceful indifference. But I was trying. Every morning I got up. Every day I showed up. Every night I tucked Maya in and told her I loved her and reminded her that none of this was her fault. And slowly, painfully, ridiculously slowly, I started to feel like maybe Jake was right. Maybe I was going to be okay. Not today. Not tomorrow. But someday. Riley called sometimes. Not often, but enough to remind me that she still existed in the world beyond our awkward custody exchanges and impersonal text messages about Maya's schedule. At first, every time her name lit up my phone screen, my stomach would drop like I was on a roller coaster I never bought a ticket for. That Pavlovian response to seeing Riley Mobile flash across my screen. Part anxiety, part anger, part something I didn't want to examine too closely because it might have been sadness and I was done being sad about her. The calls were always about Maya. At least, that's what she claimed. Hey, I was thinking about taking Maya to that new trampoline park on my weekend. Is that okay? Or, Maya mentioned she needs help with her science project. Do you want me to handle it? Or would you rather? Always reasonable. Always appropriate. Always walking that tightrope of co-parenting while pretending we weren't two people who used to share a life and now could barely share a civil conversation. But sometimes, and this was the part that pissed me off, she'd slip. She'd add something extra. Something that had nothing to do with our daughter and everything to do with her need for absolution. I've been going to therapy, Logan. Dr. Chun says I was running from intimacy issues stemming from my childhood. Or, I ended things with Tyler, by the way. It wasn't real. It was never real. Like I was supposed to care. Like her enlightenment journey was somehow my concern. I'd keep my responses short. Sure, the trampoline park is fine. You can help with the science project. Never acknowledging the personal stuff. Never giving her the satisfaction of knowing whether it hurt or helped or landed anywhere in my emotional spectrum. Because the truth was, I didn't know. Some days I'd hang up and feel nothing. Other days I'd sit there with the phone in my hand, wondering if she actually felt bad or if therapy had just taught her the right words to say to sound like she felt bad. One evening in late November, Maya was at Riley's. I was sitting on my couch eating Chinese takeout straight from the container like a divorced dad cliché. An envelope arrived in the mail. Thick, glossy, official-looking. I set down my Kung Pao chicken and examined it like it might explode. Return address, Titan Fit Premium Fitness Center. You've got to be kidding me. I opened it, and there it was, a membership renewal notice. In my name. Logan Price, we miss you. Your annual membership is up for renewal. Lock in last year's rate of $899 per year and continue your fitness journey with us. There was even a personal note scrawled at the bottom in sparkly purple pen. Hope to see you back soon. Ashley at the front desk. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud in my empty living room, scaring the hell out of the dog who'd been sleeping next to me. The audacity. The sheer, unmitigated gall of this place, sending me a renewal notice like I'd just been on an extended vacation instead of having my marriage explode in their private training studio. I grabbed my phone and called before I could talk myself out of it. A perky voice answered. Titan Fit, this is Ashley. How can I help you reach your fitness goals today? Hey Ashley, this is Logan Price. I just got a renewal notice in the mail, which is hilarious because I've never actually been a member of your establishment. My wife, ex-wife, was, but me? No, never set foot in there except for one very memorable afternoon that I'm sure is part of gym folklore by now. There was a pause. I could hear keyboard clicking. Oh, Mr. Price. I'm so sorry. There must have been a mix-up in our system. Sometimes when we have family memberships. We didn't have a family membership, Ashley. Riley had a membership. I had a front row seat to my marriage ending in your premium training studio. Slight difference. More clicking. Her voice got quieter, more mortified. I'm so sorry, Mr. Price. I'll remove you from our mailing list immediately. I should have left it there. Should have just hung up, felt smug about my little moment of petty revenge, and gone back to my Kung Pao chicken. But something in me, the part that was still angry, still hurt, still nursing a grudge the size of Tyler's ego. Couldn't let it go. Actually, before you do that, can you pass along a message for me? Sure. Tell Tyler. He still works there, right? Another pause. Yes, he's still one of our senior trainers. Perfect. Tell Tyler that I'm switching to an emotional fitness plan. It involves lifting heavy regrets and running from toxic people. The cardio alone has been incredible for my mental health. Oh, and tell him the membership fee is free, but the cost of ruining someone's life is apparently 3 months of guilty conscience and a yoga instructor who's way out of his league. Can you make sure he gets that message? I could hear Ashley trying not to laugh. Like, really trying. She made this little snorting sound that she quickly covered with a cough. I'll make a note in the system, Mr. Price. Appreciate it, Ashley. You've been great. Way better customer service than the whole home wrecking thing. 5 stars, really. I'll get you removed from our mailing list right away. Thanks. And Ashley, if Riley comes in asking about me, which she won't, but hypothetically, tell her I'm doing great. Tell her I'm thriving. Tell her I've never been happier. Even if I'm eating sad Chinese food alone on a Thursday night, you tell her I'm living my best life. I will absolutely tell her that if she asks, Ashley said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. I hung up and sat there feeling ridiculously pleased with myself. It was petty. It was immature. It was exactly the kind of thing a well-adjusted adult who'd done the work probably shouldn't do. But you know what? It felt amazing. Like a pressure valve releasing. Like scoring a point in a game I didn't even know I was still playing. That night, I took the Titan Fit envelope, ripped it into tiny pieces, and threw it in the recycling bin with more satisfaction than such a small act should have provided. But that's the thing about healing. Sometimes it happens in big dramatic moments of forgiveness and growth, and sometimes it happens when you're destroying junk mail and making sarcastic comments to gym receptionists who are just trying to do their jobs. The next morning, I woke up and realized it was the first time in weeks I hadn't immediately thought about Riley when I opened my eyes. Not because I'd forgiven her or because I was over it, but because I was starting to fill my mental space with other things. With Maya's upcoming school play, where she was playing a tree. Seriously, a tree, and she was taking it more seriously than most people take their careers. With the kitchen renovation I was designing for the Hendersons that was actually turning out pretty cool. With whether I should finally replace the rattling sound my truck was making or just live with it like a real American and hope it went away on its own. Riley texted me later that week. I heard you called Titan Fit. That was mature. I stared at the message for a solid minute, watching those 3 dots appear and disappear as she typed and deleted, trying to find the right words to make me feel guilty for my moment of petty satisfaction. I typed back, almost as mature as having an affair with your trainer. But hey, who's keeping score? The 3 dots disappeared and didn't come back. Maya came home that weekend with stories about the trampoline park, about how Riley had let her get a slushie even though it was almost dinner time, about how she'd done a backflip and Riley had freaked out thinking she'd get hurt. Normal kid stuff. Normal divorced parent stuff. The new normal that was slowly starting to feel less like a wound and more like just life. Did you have a good time with Mom? I asked while making her favorite dinner, spaghetti with the sauce from the jar that I'd learned to doctor up with garlic and Italian seasoning to make it taste almost homemade. Yeah, Maya said, coloring at the kitchen table. But I missed you. And just like that, every frustration, every angry phone call, every petty revenge fantasy melted away. Because this kid, this incredible, resilient, somehow still happy despite everything kid, was the only score that mattered. Missed you too, kiddo, I said, stirring the sauce. Hey, want to hear a joke? She groaned preemptively, but she was smiling. Do I have a choice? What do you call a fake noodle? Dad, you already told me this one. An impasta. She giggled despite herself. That's so bad. That's so good, you mean. Comedy gold. I should take this act on the road. Please don't. We ate dinner together, talking about her day and her upcoming role as tree number 3 in the school play, and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Content. Not happy exactly. Not over it. But content. Like maybe I was going to be okay. Like maybe we were going to be okay. Later that night, after Maya was asleep, I found myself thinking about that phone call to Titan Fit. About Ashley trying not to laugh. About the satisfaction of getting in one good jab at the place that had become the symbol of everything that had gone wrong. But mostly, I thought about how I'd made it through another day, another week, another month. How the spaces between thinking about Riley were getting longer. How the weight on my chest was getting lighter. How life was slowly, painfully, stubbornly continuing whether I was ready for it or not. I still had moments where I'd see a couple holding hands and feel that knife twist in my gut. Still had nights where I'd lie awake wondering what I'd done wrong, what I could have done differently, whether I'd missed signs or just chosen to ignore them. But I also had mornings where I woke up and felt okay. Had evenings with Maya where we laughed until our stomachs hurt. Had moments at job sites where I'd step back and look at something I'd built with my own hands and feel proud. The ghost of Jim past was still there, lurking in the corners of my mind. But it was getting quieter, fading, becoming less of a haunting and more of a memory I could file away under lessons learned the hard way. And that renewal notice? That stayed ripped up in my recycling bin, right where it belonged. A perfect metaphor for my marriage to Riley and everything that came with it. Trash day couldn't come soon enough. Fast forward 6 months. It was one of those Seattle evenings in April where the rain came down sideways. The kind of weather that makes you question why anyone voluntarily lives in the Pacific Northwest. Maya and I were deep into a cartoon marathon. Some show about talking animals who solve mysteries. And honestly, I was more invested in the plot than I wanted to admit. We were at the part where the rabbit detective was about to reveal who stole the golden carrot when I heard it. Knock, knock, knock. Not the casual, hey neighbor, can I borrow some sugar knock. Not the delivery guy with a package knock. This was hesitant, uncertain. The kind of knock that says the person on the other side isn't sure they should be there, but showed up anyway. I'll get it, I said, pausing the TV mid-cliffhanger. Maya groaned in protest, but I was already up, padding across the living room in my socks and sweatpants, looking every bit the divorced dad who'd given up on impressing anyone. I opened the door, and my brain short-circuited for a solid 3 seconds. Tyler, Mr. Perfect Posture himself, stood on my porch, soaked to the bone like he'd walked here through a car wash. His Gym Perfect hair was plastered to his forehead, his designer workout jacket clinging to him in ways that probably looked good on Instagram, but right now just looked pathetic. He was holding a gym bag, because of course he was, like he'd just come from teaching a class on how to ruin marriages while maintaining proper squat form. We stared at each other. The rain hammered down around him. Water dripped off his nose. Somewhere in the distance, a car alarm was going off. It was the most awkward moment since that time I'd walked in on him touching my wife, which, as you can imagine, set a pretty high bar for awkward. Before he could get a word out, before he could launch into whatever rehearsed speech he'd prepared on his way over, I said, "Sorry, man, the dumbbell section's that way," and pointed down the street like I was giving directions to a lost tourist. He blinked. Water dripped into his eyes. "Logan, oh, you know my name. That's great. Real great. For a while there, I thought you just knew me as Riley's husband, or that guy whose life I helped destroy. Nice to know we're on a first-name basis now." He flinched like I'd slapped him. "Good. Look, I know you have every right to hate me." Wow. Give this man a prize for self-awareness. What gave it away? Was it the part where you slept with my wife, or the part where you did it in a gym I was indirectly paying for through her membership fees? Because both of those seem like pretty solid reasons, but I want to make sure we're on the same page. Tyler shifted his gym bag from one hand to the other, and I noticed his hands were shaking. Whether from cold or nerves, I didn't know and didn't care. "Riley's done with me," he said, and his voice cracked a little. "She told me everything. About you, about Maya, about how she messed up. I wanted to say I'm sorry." I leaned against the doorframe, crossing my arms, making it very clear he wasn't coming inside. "You came all the way here, in the rain, to confess? What is this, a rom-com audition? Should I be expecting a boom mic to swing into frame? I'm being serious." "Oh, you're being serious. Well, that changes everything. Pack it up, folks. Tyler's being serious now. All is forgiven. Should we hug it out? Maybe do some trust falls? I could spot you while you bench press your guilt." He actually looked like he might cry, which was simultaneously satisfying and somehow made me angrier. How dare he show up here looking vulnerable? How dare he stand on my porch, dripping wet and pathetic, asking for forgiveness when I was the one who'd spent months putting my life back together while he got to walk away with nothing more than a bruised ego. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone," he stammered, and it was possibly the stupidest thing anyone had ever said to me. I laughed, actually laughed. You didn't mean to hurt anyone. That's beautiful. Really. Let me make sure I understand. You accidentally developed feelings for a married woman? You accidentally spent 3 months sneaking around with her? Your dick accidentally ended up somewhere it had no business being? Is that what you're telling me? Because if so, you should probably see a doctor about your lack of control over your own actions. That's not. I'm trying to apologize. And I'm trying to watch cartoons with my daughter, but here we are, having this delightful conversation instead. Tell me, Tyler, what exactly did you think was going to happen here? You'd show up, say sorry, and I'd what? Absolve you of your guilt? Give you permission to feel better about yourself? Tell you it's all okay, and we can be buddies now. No, you just what? Wanted to clear your conscience? Wanted to feel like a good guy who owns his mistakes? Here's a news flash, buddy. Saying sorry doesn't make you noble. It makes you someone who did something shitty and now wants credit for acknowledging it. You want forgiveness? Go find a priest. Want absolution? Try therapy. But don't show up at my door like I'm some NPC in your redemption arc. The rain was really coming down now, and Tyler was shivering. Good. I hoped he was miserable. I hoped every drop of rain felt like a tiny reminder of what he'd done. I hoped he'd catch a cold and spend the next week sniffling into tissues and questioning his life choices. I know I can't take it back, he said quietly. I know I screwed up. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. That I think about what I did every day. That's funny. I cut him off, and I could feel my smile turn cold. You seemed pretty flexible when you were bending the rules. Pretty comfortable when you were adjusting my wife's form. Pretty confident when you were texting her all those messages I found on her phone after she moved out. But now you're sorry? Now you think about it every day? I do. Save it. I straightened up, done with this conversation. Done with his guilt. Done with being the person who was supposed to make him feel better about being a home-wrecking douchebag. You want to know what I think about every day? I think about explaining to my 8-year-old daughter why her mom doesn't live here anymore. I think about the look on her face when she asks if it's her fault. I think about all the small, stupid ways my life got blown apart because you and Riley decided your feelings mattered more than everyone else's. Tyler opened his mouth to respond, but I wasn't done. I think about Maya asking me why grown-ups can't just keep their promises. I think about tucking her in at night and hearing her cry for her mom. I think about every soccer game and school play where Riley and I have to stand on opposite sides of the field pretending we can be civil. I think about how my daughter's entire sense of security got shattered because 2 adults couldn't keep it in their pants. That's what I think about every day. He looked like I'd punched him in the gut. His eyes were red. Could have been tears. Could have been rain. I didn't care enough to determine which. So you're sorry? I continued, and my voice was getting louder now. I could hear Maya pause the TV in the living room, probably listening. I should have cared. Should have lowered my voice. But 6 months of being the good guy, the mature co-parent, the bigger person had filled my tank, and I was overflowing. You're sorry you got caught. Sorry it didn't work out with Riley. Sorry you're facing consequences for your actions. But are you sorry you did it? Because given the chance, given the opportunity, given my wife batting her eyes at you in that gym, you'd do it all over again. Don't pretend otherwise. That's not true. Get off my porch, I said, and my voice dropped to something quiet and dangerous. Get off my porch, get out of my neighborhood, and go back to whatever life you've built for yourself since you helped destroy mine. Riley might need to hear your apology. Riley might need your guilt to validate her own. But me? I don't need a damn thing from you except for you to disappear. Logan, we're done here. I stepped back and grabbed the door handle. Tyler took a step forward, like he was going to try one more time to make me understand, to make me care, to make this moment mean something in his personal journey toward being a better person. One more thing, I said, pausing. You and Riley? You deserved each other. Not because you're both bad people, though jury's still out on that one. But because you're both the kind of people who think saying sorry fixes everything. Who think good intentions excuse bad actions. Who think everyone else should accommodate your emotional growth at their own expense. I smiled, and I knew it wasn't a kind smile. So yeah, I'm sorry things didn't work out between you two. I'm sorry Riley realized that a guy who'll cheat with her will probably cheat on her. I'm sorry you're standing on my porch in the rain, looking for forgiveness I'll never give you. I'm sorry your guilt is keeping you up at night. But mostly, I'm sorry you wasted your time coming here, because this conversation was over the second you put your hands on my wife 6 months ago. Then I slammed the door in his face. Slammed it hard enough that the frame shook. Hard enough that it echoed through the house. Hard enough that Maya jumped a little on the couch. I stood there with my hand on the door, breathing hard, listening to Tyler's footsteps retreat down the porch steps, hearing his car door slam a minute later, the engine starting, the sound of him driving away. My heart was pounding. My hands were shaking. I felt like I'd just run a marathon or lifted a car off someone or done something physically impossible that left me drained and wired at the same time. Dad, Maya's small voice came from the living room. Who was that? I turned around, tried to make my face look normal. Nobody important, sweetheart. Just someone asking for directions. She studied me with those too smart 8-year-old eyes that saw way more than I wanted her to see. You seemed mad. I walked back to the couch and sat down next to her, pulling her into a hug. Sometimes grown-ups have conversations that get loud. But it's okay. Everything's okay. She hugged me back, and I felt her little arms wrap around my waist. Okay, Dad. We went back to the cartoon, back to the mystery of the golden carrot, back to our Friday night routine, like Tyler hadn't just appeared on my doorstep looking for absolution he'd never find. But as the rabbit detective revealed the shocking twist ending, I realized something. I felt good. Not happy exactly. Not at peace. But something close to it. Like I'd been carrying around this weight of unfinished business, and now it was done. Tyler had showed up. I'd told him exactly what I thought, and I'd slammed the door on that chapter of my life. It felt good. Like a personal record in emotional bench pressing. Like closure with a side of rain-soaked revenge. Like maybe, finally, I could stop looking over my shoulder waiting for the other shoe to drop, because it had already dropped, and I'd kicked it back where it came from. That night, after Maya finally fell asleep clutching her stuffed rabbit, the one she'd had since she was 2 and refused to give up despite it being held together mostly by hopes and prayers at this point, I sat in the dark living room thinking about real estate. Not the kind you buy, but the kind you give away for free without even realizing it. Mental real estate. Emotional property. The headspace I'd been renting out to Tyler and Riley like they were tenants who never paid on time and trashed the place every chance they got. Tyler had been living rent-free in my head for 6 months. Every time I saw a gym, every time I passed a fitness magazine at the grocery store checkout, every time Maya mentioned something her mom said, there he was, lurking, taking up space, rearranging my mental furniture without permission. And for what? So I could replay that day at Titan Fit on an endless loop? So I could imagine increasingly elaborate revenge scenarios that would never happen? So I could stay angry at someone who didn't deserve another second of my time? I decided right then, sitting in my living room with nothing but the glow of the TV menu screen for light, that rent was due. Past due, actually. And eviction was immediate. No 30-day notice. No going through proper channels. Just straight up, get the hell out of my head. You're done here. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. I got up and started cleaning. Not the regular kind of cleaning where you wipe down counters and maybe vacuum if you're feeling ambitious. I'm talking about deep cleaning. The kind of cleaning that happens at 3 in the morning when you're making life-changing decisions and need to do something with your hands. I pulled out the vacuum and went over every inch of carpet like I was erasing evidence from a crime scene. I scrubbed the kitchen until the counters gleamed. I organized the junk drawer that had become a black hole of random batteries, rubber bands, and receipts from 2019. Then I moved to the harder stuff. I went through the house and gathered every single reminder of Riley. The framed photos from our wedding that I turned face down months ago, but never actually removed. The decorative bowl she'd bought at some artisan market because it spoke to her. Apparently it had nothing to say to me because I'd always thought it was ugly. The throw blanket she'd picked out that Maya refused to use because it was too scratchy. The cookbook she'd bought with grand plans to become a master chef but had only used twice, leaving behind oil stains on the pages and abandoned dreams of domestic goddess status. I piled it all in boxes. Not in an angry, throwing things around kind of way. More methodical, clinical even, like I was a surgeon removing something that didn't belong in the body anymore. Each item went into a box marked Riley's stuff in black Sharpie, and with each item, I felt a little bit lighter. The gym towel she'd left behind, the one with the Titan Fit logo that I'd been using as a rag under the sink, that one got special treatment. I took it outside to the grill, the one I'd bought last summer during my brief phase of thinking I could be a barbecue dad. I laid that towel right on the grates, squirted it with lighter fluid, and lit it up. Don't worry, I did it safely. Grill lid open, fire extinguisher nearby, no trees overhead. I'm emotionally damaged, not stupid. I watched that towel burn, the Titan Fit logo curling and blackening, and I felt absolutely nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, just the mild pleasure of watching something turn to ash that probably should have been thrown away months ago. The smell was terrible, burning polyester mixed with whatever chemicals they used to make gym towels moisture-wicking, but it was worth it for the symbolism alone. When the fire died down and all that was left was a small pile of melted fabric and regret, I went back inside, showered off the smell of burning bad decisions, and climbed into bed. For the first time in 6 months, I didn't check my phone to see if Riley had texted. Didn't scroll through social media. Didn't lie awake constructing imaginary conversations where I said the perfect thing and everyone clapped. I just slept. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm, which literally never happens, and I felt different. Not healed, not over it, but different. Like I'd shed a layer of skin that had been too tight, too uncomfortable, too covered in other people's bullshit. I made coffee, started breakfast, and when Maya wandered into the kitchen rubbing sleep from her eyes, I was actually humming. You're happy, she observed suspiciously, because kids can smell emotional shifts like sharks smell blood. I'm okay, I corrected, sliding a plate of pancakes in front of her. There's a difference. What's the difference? I thought about it while pouring her orange juice. Happy is when everything's good. Okay is when everything's not good, but you're dealing with it anyway. And sometimes okay is enough. She considered this while drowning her pancakes in syrup. I think okay is better, because happy can go away fast. But okay stays. Out of the mouths of babes, right? My 8-year-old daughter just dropped more wisdom than most self-help books I'd rage-skimmed at 2 in the morning. Over the next few weeks, I continued the purge. I repainted the bedroom. Goodbye to the beige Riley had insisted was calming, and hello to a charcoal gray that actually felt like mine. Turned out I liked darker colors. Who knew? Oh, right me. I would have known if anyone had asked me instead of just assuming beige was what married people were supposed to like. I replaced the sheets we'd shared, got rid of those decorative pillows that served no purpose except to be thrown on the floor every night before bed. Seriously, why do people buy pillows you can't use? That's like buying a car you can't drive. It's aesthetic dictatorship, and I was staging a revolution. I turned Riley's old closet into storage for my tools and Maya's art supplies. Every time I opened that closet door and saw my circular saw where her dresses used to hang, I felt like I'd reclaimed territory. Like I'd planted a flag on land that was rightfully mine and declared independence from the tyranny of matching bedroom sets and coordinated color schemes. The divorce papers arrived in July. Thick manila envelope, official stamps, lawyer letterhead, the whole production. Riley and I had to sign them together at the lawyer's office, which was about as fun as a root canal performed by someone who hates you. We sat across from each other at a conference table that probably cost more than my truck, signing page after page of legal documents that basically said, "This marriage is officially dead. Here's how we're dividing the corpse." She looked different. Tired. Not the glowing, gym-confident woman who'd left, but someone who'd lived through consequences and come out the other side looking less certain about everything. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. The kind you wear when you stop caring, not the kind you style to look effortlessly casual. No makeup. A sweatshirt that had seen better days. She looked, honestly, like I'd felt for the past 6 months. "How have you been?" she asked while we waited for the lawyers to finish making copies. "Fine," I said, because what else was I supposed to say? "I've been great, thanks for asking. I've spent half a year putting my life back together while you figured out that cheating wasn't the solution to whatever problem you thought you had." "Maya seems good," she tried again. "She is good. She's resilient. Thank God one of us passed that gene on to her." Riley flinched but didn't respond. We signed the last page. The lawyer congratulated us on being so civil. I wanted to laugh. Civil, that's what we'd become. 2 strangers who shared a kid and a mortgage we just legally divided. Civil, like we were countries after a war, agreeing to tolerate each other's existence. We walked out of that office together. Well, at the same time, not together, and stood in the parking lot for an awkward moment. She looked like she wanted to say something. Something big. But right now, we're co-parents who used to be married. That's enough. She nodded, tears forming in her eyes. Yeah, Okay. I got in my truck and drove away, and I didn't look back. Not out of anger or spite, but because there was nothing behind me worth seeing anymore. The rearview mirror was for checking traffic, not for dwelling on what used to be. That night, I took Maya out for ice cream to celebrate absolutely nothing. Just ice cream on a Wednesday because we could. Because I was making new traditions that didn't involve Riley or memories of when we were a family of 3. She got chocolate chip cookie dough. I got mint chocolate chip. We sat on a bench outside the shop, watching the sunset, and she told me about her day at summer camp, about how she'd made a friendship bracelet for her friend Emma, about how she'd learned to do a cartwheel. Normal stuff. Kid stuff. The kind of stuff that made me realize that the best revenge wasn't anger or bitterness or burning gym towels in my backyard. The best revenge was peace. Was being able to sit with my daughter eating ice cream and not thinking about Riley or Tyler or divorce papers or any of the drama that had consumed the last 6 months of my life. The best revenge was being okay. Not happy. Maya was right about that. Happy could disappear as fast as it arrived. But okay? Okay was steady. Okay was reliable. Okay was waking up and not immediately feeling like someone was standing on your chest. Okay was making it through a whole day without checking your ex's social media. Okay was laughing at your own jokes and meaning it. I realized, sitting there with ice cream dripping down my hand because I was too busy listening to Maya's story to eat it properly, that I'd stopped performing my healing for an invisible audience. I wasn't getting better to prove something to Riley, or to show Tyler I was fine without them, or to demonstrate to my friends that I'd bounced back. I was getting better because the alternative was staying broken, and I had a kid who needed me to be something other than a cautionary tale about trusting the wrong person. Maybe I'd never fully trust anyone again. Maybe I'd always have that little voice in the back of my head looking for red flags and signs of betrayal. Maybe I'd ruin my chances at a healthy relationship because I'd be too busy waiting for the other shoe to drop. Or maybe not. Maybe someday I'd meet someone who made me want to try again. Someone who didn't work at a gym. That was non-negotiable. Someone who understood that I came with baggage and a precocious daughter and a deep-seated mistrust of personal trainers. But that was future Logan's problem. Present Logan just needed to finish his ice cream and get Maya home before bedtime. Parenting with an ex is like running a 3-legged race where you're tied to someone you actively want to avoid, but you can't because there's a finish line, and it's called raising a functional human being. You move forward, but it's awkward as hell, and someone's always stepping on someone else's foot. Riley and I worked out custody terms that looked good on paper. Every other weekend, alternating holidays, Wednesday dinners when her schedule allowed. We agreed on communication boundaries, which basically meant only text about Maya and no drunk dialing at 2 a.m. to relitigate the past. We even established one golden rule that our lawyers thought was cute, but I considered essential. No emotional burpees. No dragging Maya into our mess. No using her as a messenger service. No guilt-tripping each other through an 8-year-old intermediary. We even started seeing a co-parenting therapist named Dr. Bennett, a woman in her 60s who'd probably seen every flavor of divorce drama and still somehow maintained faith in humanity. She had this calm, measured way of speaking that made you feel like an idiot for being petty, but in a gentle way that didn't make you want to argue. The goal, Dr. Bennett said during our first session, sitting in her office that smelled like lavender and middle-aged wisdom, is to let go of resentment toward each other and focus on what's best for Maya. I nodded like a good student. Absolutely. Let go of resentment. Got it, Logan, she said, giving me that look that therapists perfect over years of dealing with people's bullshit. Do you think you can do that? I thought about it for a second. Can I do that after Riley stops wearing full athleisure to parent-teacher meetings? Because it feels like she's rubbing it in. Even Riley cracked a laugh at that one, quickly covering her mouth like she wasn't supposed to find me funny anymore. Progress, I guess. If we could laugh at the same stupid joke, maybe we could figure out how to be in the same room without the temperature dropping 20 degrees. Dr. Bennett smiled. Small steps, Logan. Small steps. And it was small steps. Painful, awkward. Why is this so hard, small steps? But we did it. We showed up to Maya's soccer games and stood on opposite sides of the field like Cold War superpowers, but we showed up. We both attended the parent-teacher conferences and managed not to argue about whose parenting style was better. We coordinated birthday parties and holiday schedules without lawyers having to get involved, which felt like an Olympic achievement. Maya was thriving, which was the whole point. Straight A's on her report card, a collection of soccer trophies that was taking over her bookshelf, and enough sass to fill a stadium. She'd learned to navigate two households like a tiny diplomat, remembering that Dad's house had different rules than Mom's house, and neither of us was wrong, just different. One day she told me, unprompted, "Mom says you're funny now." I was making dinner. Spaghetti again, because some traditions die hard. "Sweetheart, I was always funny. Your mom just preferred cardio to comedy." Maya giggled, then got that serious look kids get when they're about to say something important. "Are you and Mom going to be friends again?" I turned off the stove and sat down next to her at the kitchen table. "We're going to be friendly," I said carefully. "We're going to work together to make sure you're happy and healthy. But the kind of friends we used to be? Probably not. Because she hurt you? Because sometimes people grow apart, and that's okay. What matters is that we both love you, and we're both going to keep showing up for you. Deal." She thought about it, then nodded. Deal. And that was it. That was the whole complicated mess of co-parenting distilled into a conversation with an 8-year-old who understood more than I gave her credit for. Riley and I weren't going to be friends. We weren't going to have coffee and laugh about old times. But we were going to show up, be civil, and raise our daughter together from separate addresses. It wasn't the life I'd planned. Wasn't the fairy tale ending I'd imagined when I'd gotten down on one knee 9 years ago. But it was working. Maya was happy. I was okay. Riley seemed to be figuring out her own stuff. And honestly, that was enough. By winter, life had found its rhythm again. Not the old rhythm. That was gone, buried under 6 feet of betrayal and divorce papers. But a new one. Different. Quieter. Mine. My days followed a pattern that would have bored me a year ago, but now felt like the most stable thing in the world. Wake up at 5:30, hit the gym before Maya woke up, make breakfast, pack lunches, drop her at school, head to whatever job site needed my attention, pick her up, help with homework, make dinner, bedtime routine, repeat. Monday through Friday, like clockwork. Weekends were split between solo dad time and the blessed quiet of my every other weekend when Maya was at Riley's. I'd found my rhythm. Work, Maya, sleep, repeat. It wasn't exciting, but exciting had gotten me a front row seat to my marriage imploding, so I was perfectly fine with boring. Riley showed up for school events now. We'd see each other at Maya's soccer games, at the winter concert where our daughter played the recorder with more enthusiasm than skill, at the science fair where she'd built a volcano that actually worked. We'd smile politely across crowded gymnasiums, wave awkwardly from opposite ends of the bleachers, make small talk about Maya's progress that carefully avoided anything personal. We were two adults who had burned a bridge but were learning to share the view from opposite sides. It wasn't friendship. It wasn't even really forgiveness. But it was functional, and in the Olympics of divorced co-parenting, functional deserved a medal. Sometimes I'd catch Riley looking at me with something that looked like regret. Those moments when I'd be laughing with Maya about something, or talking to another parent, or just existing in a way that suggested I'd moved on without her. Her eyes would linger a little too long, and I could practically hear her wondering if she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. But I didn't gloat. Didn't rub it in. Didn't do the whole, "look how well I'm doing without you" performance. I just smiled like someone who'd finally upgraded from chaos to calm, from drama to peace, from being someone's husband to being my own person. My friends kept pushing me to date again. Jake was relentless about it, showing me dating apps like he was a sales rep for loneliness solutions. "Dude, you're ready," he'd say, shoving his phone in my face with profiles of perfectly nice women who probably didn't deserve to deal with my trust issues. "Sure," I'd say, scrolling past them without interest. But if she even mentions a personal trainer, I'm running. Like Olympic sprinter running. Usain Bolt has nothing on how fast I'll disappear. Not all women work out, man. It's not about working out. It's about the principle. Gyms are dead to me. Fitness instructors are dead to me. Anyone who uses the word gains unironically is dead to me. Jake would laugh, but I was only half joking. Maybe 60% joking. The other 40% was dead serious about my new deal breakers, which now included works at a gym, has a gym membership at Titan Fit specifically, talks about their trainer like he's a spiritual guide, and anyone named Tyler. The truth was, I wasn't ready. Despite what Jake thought, despite the well-meaning advice from everyone who thought being single was some kind of disease that needed curing, I was perfectly fine alone. Better than fine, actually. I was learning who Logan was without Riley, without the identity of being someone's husband, without having to compromise on paint colors or pretend to like decorative pillows. And honestly, I kind of liked him. A year later, it was Maya's 9th birthday. Riley and I stood across the table in my backyard, watching our daughter blow out her candles, surrounded by friends who had no idea their hostess came from a broken home. Our eyes met briefly over the flickering flames. No hate, no love. Just history. Just two people who used to mean everything to each other, and now were just co-parents with shared custody and separate lives. Tyler was long gone from both our lives. Disappeared like a bad gym membership you finally cancel. Riley had changed. Therapy had actually worked, apparently. Cut her hair shorter. Dressed differently. Talked less about herself and more about Maya. She'd become someone I didn't recognize, which was probably for the best since the person I'd recognized had destroyed everything we'd built. I had changed too. Lost the anger. Found some abs. Gained a daughter who thought I was funny and a life that was entirely mine. No compromises. No lies. No checking phones or wondering where anyone was. Just me, Maya, and a future that didn't include betrayal as a plot twist. As I drove home that night after Riley took Maya for her sleepover weekend, I realized something important. Peace isn't about forgetting who hurt you. It's about being able to laugh about it later. It's about reaching a point where the story becomes just that, a story, not a wound, not a scar, just something that happened once, to a version of yourself you barely remember. So yeah, my wife left me for her trainer. But I got something better in return, abs of resilience, a daughter who thinks I'm a superhero, and the unshakable satisfaction of knowing that the guy who did push-ups on my marriage now probably cries into his protein shakes. And that, my friend, is what I call closure with cardio. The weight had finally lifted, and I was stronger for it. My wife texted, "I'll be late, helping my sister." When she came home, I was having breakfast with her sister. I smirked. "Oh, done with your boss already?" It started like any other weeknight, the kind of Tuesday that feels like Monday's lazy cousin. I was halfway through microwaving leftover lasagna, trying to convince myself it still counted as home-cooked, when Claire appeared at the door with her tote bag slung over her shoulder and that trademark guilty smile she thought I hadn't noticed yet. You know the one. Too wide, too polished, like it had been rehearsed in front of a mirror. "I'll be late tonight, honey," she said, casually slipping her heels on like this was just another episode of our regular sitcom called Marriage, but with plot holes. My sister needs help with some home stuff. That was the third sister emergency in 10 days. Either her sister was building a pyramid, or I was being played in high definition. I paused the microwave, turned around, and gave her that polite husband smile. The one that says, "Sure, I believe you, but I also have Google Maps and common sense." Again, I asked, "Wow, your sister's house must be one drywall away from FEMA intervention." She gave a nervous little laugh. "Oh, stop. She's just not handy with tools." "Yeah, apparently neither are electricians, plumbers, or literally anyone who gets paid to fix things," I said, crossing my arms. "But sure, send her my regards, and maybe call an actual electrician next time instead of a marketing executive." Claire laughed too loud. The kind of loud that makes dogs tilt their heads and neighbors peek through blinds. "You're funny," she said, grabbing her keys and adjusting her hair like she was preparing for a photo shoot, not a home repair session. "Not as funny as this story's about to get," I muttered under my breath. "What was that?" she asked. "Nothing," I said with a grin. "Just talking to myself, as married people do." She leaned in, kissed me on the cheek. Too quickly, too lightly, like I was a polite coworker she barely liked, and then left. Her perfume lingered behind her, hanging in the air like guilt in a glass bottle. Sweet, floral, and way too expensive for a night of hanging curtains. I stood there for a moment, staring at the closed door, and whispered to myself, "Helping your sister? Huh? Yeah, helping her boss, maybe." Then I laughed, not because it was funny, but because sarcasm is cheaper than therapy. I tried to shake. The first time she said her sister needed help with her sink. The second time it was her curtains. The third time, she didn't even bother specifying. Just some home stuff. I finished my juice, set the glass down, and smirked. Home stuff. That's vague enough to include cheating. Then I laughed again because the absurdity of it all was just too much. I wasn't angry yet, just entertained. Like watching a bad crime show where you already know who the killer is, but you stick around because you want to see how dumb the detectives can get. When I finally went to bed, I noticed her side of the mattress was still perfectly made, the pillow untouched. And maybe it was the insomnia talking, but I swear the sheets smelled like perfume and irony. Around midnight, I heard her car pull in. I didn't get up. I stayed still, pretending to sleep. The door opened softly. Her heels clicked on the tile, and then stopped. She stood there for a moment, probably checking if I was asleep, then tiptoed to the bathroom. I heard the faint hum of her electric toothbrush, followed by the sound of her setting her tote down carefully, like she was hiding evidence instead of a purse. She slipped into bed quietly. Too quietly. That kind of quiet where guilt wears pajamas. Long night. I mumbled, eyes still closed. She froze. Oh, hey, you're awake? Barely. How's your sister? Exhausted, she said quickly. She's having a rough week. Yeah, so are you, I said. She hesitated, then kissed my shoulder. Go back to sleep, babe. And I did. Or at least, I faked it convincingly. But in my head, I was wide awake, staring at the back of my eyelids like they were a screen showing reruns of How to Spot a Liar in 4K. The next morning, she was all sunshine and small talk. She made coffee, hummed to herself, and asked me how my day looked. That's the thing about guilt. It makes people overcompensate. Pretty normal, I said, sipping my coffee. You? She shrugged. Another busy day? Nothing, I said. Just thinking. About what? I shrugged. How lucky your sister is to have someone who shows up every time there's a crisis. She laughed, brushing her hair. You're jealous. Oh no, I said, smiling. I'm just impressed. She smirked, kissed me goodnight, and turned off the light. As I lay there, staring at the ceiling, I whispered to myself, I'm not the jealous husband. I'm the observant one. And this story? It's about to get real interesting. Then I rolled over, smiled in the dark, and mentally opened a new folder in my head. Project Sister Excuse. Phase 1, Data Collection. Because if my wife wanted to run a cover story, I was about to become the editor-in-chief of her little fiction magazine. I've never been the jealous type. I'm the data type. Some guys catch feelings, me? I catch timestamps. Patterns. Repetition. Consistency. It's the same part of my brain that knows when a customer at the renovation shop is about to argue over the quote. So when my wife started giving sister excuses like they were prescription pills, I didn't rage. I analyzed. See, Claire wasn't slick. She was habitual. Her sister nights always fell on Thursdays. I know because Thursday used to be our order takeout and complain about our lives night. We'd watch something terrible on Netflix. She'd steal fries from my plate, and I'd pretend to be mad about it. Domestic bliss, right? Until suddenly, her sister's house became the most emotionally unstable building in town. The first Thursday, I bought her story. By the third, I started noticing the clues, subtle things. Different perfume, new lipstick shade, that faint sparkle in her eyes like she'd just been complimented by someone who wasn't me. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't some paranoid tinfoil hat husband. I was just noticing. You can't spend a decade renovating homes without learning how to see cracks before the walls collapse. And the cracks? Oh, they were showing. The clinic she worked at had an after-hours hangout thing every Thursday. Casual drinks after work, she'd called it once, before all the sister drama began. Now, apparently, those drinks had been replaced with curtain rods and leaky faucets. What a coincidence. So there I was Friday morning, sitting in the shop with my foreman, Marcus, sipping burnt coffee that could strip paint, when I said, You ever get that feeling your wife's got a side gig as a magician? Marcus raised an eyebrow. What? She pulling rabbits or disappearing acts? Disappearing acts, I said, swirling my coffee. Every Thursday. Says she's helping her sister. You know what her sister's last emergency was? Replacing shower curtains. He chuckled. Maybe she just likes being helpful. Oh, she's helpful. All right, I said. She's basically a volunteer firefighter for her sister's imaginary house problems. Marcus laughed so hard he almost spilled his mug. You gonna check it out? Maybe follow her. I leaned back, smirked. Not yet. I'm waiting for the season finale. Can't interrupt mid-plot twist. He pointed at me. That's how people end up on Dateline, man. Relax, I said. I'm not chasing her with night vision goggles. I'm collecting data. There's a difference. Marcus snorted. Oh, so it's like CSI, Suburbia? Exactly, I said. I'm the guy with the clipboard and emotional damage. That got another laugh out of him. But beneath the jokes, I meant every word. I wasn't ready to confront her. I needed proof. Numbers. Locations. Behavior changes. I was running an emotional audit. That evening, Claire texted me at 6:12 p.m., same as always. Sister needs me again. I'll be late. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard before I replied. Sure. Want me to pack a screwdriver or a lie detector? She didn't respond. Classic. By 9 p.m., I was at home, sitting in front of the TV, pretending to watch a home renovation show. Funny thing about watching other people fix houses while yours is metaphorically crumbling. It hits different. The host on TV was saying, always check for rot behind the walls before you repaint, and I muttered, yeah, wish I'd checked behind my wife's smile before I married her. That's when it hit me. This wasn't jealousy, it was recognition. You ever smell something so often it becomes familiar? That's what her perfume had become. It wasn't the scent itself, it was what it represented. Every time she walked out the door smelling like that, it meant I was getting lied to in HD. The next morning, I did what any reasonable man would do. I created a spreadsheet. Yeah, I know, laugh it up. But look, data doesn't lie. It was just columns and dates at first: Thursday, sister, return time, emotional tone. Then I started adding notes: makeup level, perfume type, how loud she laughed when I made jokes. The trend was undeniable. Guilt makes people overly cheerful. I even gave the spreadsheet a name: the Sister Excuse Project. Marcus saw it a few days later on my laptop and nearly spit out his coffee. Bro, you made a Google sheet for this? Evidence-based living, I said. Better than therapy. He grinned. What's next? You gonna color code it? Already did, I said. Green for normal nights, red for suspicious ones. He just shook his head. You need Jesus? Or a camera? But that's the thing. I wasn't ready for confrontation. I needed clarity first. Thursday rolled around again. I kissed her goodbye, smiled like the world's calmest idiot, and watched her drive off in her white Honda. I gave it 10 minutes before muttering, all right, Mark, let's get scientific. I checked her location on the Family Tracker app. Yeah, the same one she insisted we keep for emergencies. It showed her car parked, not near her sister's place. Nope. She was at the intersection downtown where all the restaurants with dim lighting and live jazz bands exist. The kind of places people go to not talk about shower rods. I zoomed in. The location pin hovered suspiciously close to a spot called the Garden Loft. I'd been there once. Great food, even better cocktails, and definitely not the place for a sibling's emotional plumbing crisis. I took a screenshot, saved it, filed it neatly in my mental folder labeled Evidence for Future Smugness. Later that night, when she came home smelling like champagne and denial, I didn't say a word. I just asked, so how's Lucy's shower? She blinked. What? The one you were fixing? Oh, fine. Yeah, all good now. Cool, I said, smiling. Good to know plumbing emergencies respect your schedule. She looked at me for a second, suspicious, then shrugged and went to bed. I stared at the ceiling that night, my mind buzzing with sarcasm and caffeine. I wasn't heartbroken. Not yet. I was fascinated. How long could she keep this up? How long could someone stare their spouse in the face and lie so easily? The next day, Marcus caught me in the shop, deep in thought. You look like a man who's either about to cry or build something illegal. Neither, I said. Just thinking. About. Patterns, I said. People. How predictable they are once you stop romanticizing them. He whistled. Damn, that's poetic. You write that down. Probably should, I said, scribbling a note on the corner of a receipt. Might come in handy during my villain arc. By week 3, I'd stopped pretending not to know. She was lying. I didn't have proof yet, but the math didn't lie. Her Thursday perfume was back. The lipstick shade changed again, subtle, but noticeable. You don't wear Crimson Affair to screw in light bulbs. Still, I kept the jokes coming, because humor is how I survive chaos. Hey, Claire, I said one night. You think your sister's ever gonna pay you for all this unpaid labor? Or at least name a room after you? She smirked, tossing her hair. You're such a clown. Oh, baby, I said with a grin. If this marriage had a laugh track, I'd be the whole studio audience. She rolled her eyes, kissed my cheek, and left again. That night, I stared at her contact name on my phone, Claire Redheart, and thought, yeah, that heart's earned an asterisk. By midnight, I wasn't just suspicious anymore. I was certain. The texts, the perfume, the Thursday schedule, the overly cheerful behavior. It all pointed to one undeniable truth. My wife was lying to me, and not even creatively. The next morning, Marcus saw me grinning like a man who'd just discovered the last puzzle piece. "Oh no," he said. "You figured it out, didn't you?" "Almost," I said. "But before I make my move, I need one more thing. Proof so good it could win an Oscar." Marcus groaned. "Mark, please tell me you're not about to go full detective." I raised my coffee mug. "No, not detective. Strategist." He laughed. "Same thing, different hat." And he wasn't wrong. Because by that point, I wasn't just a husband anymore. I was the calm before a very calculated storm. I'd given her enough rope, enough Thursdays, enough fake sister crises. The spreadsheet was complete, the pattern was proven, and my gut, my once naive, trusting gut, was ready to cash its receipts. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. That's not my style. I was going to outsmart her, with patience, sarcasm, and maybe a little help from a GPS tracker I knew Marcus kept for company vehicles. Because if Claire wanted to play house at the garden loft, she was about to find out I'd been quietly renovating the foundation underneath her story. I wasn't angry anymore, just ready. And as I looked at her name lighting up my phone that night with another sister emergency text, I smiled, muttered to myself, "All right, sweetheart. Season finale coming soon," and poured myself another cup of black coffee, extra bitter, just like my sense of humor. Friday night rolled in like an old sitcom rerun. Predictable, overacted, and still somehow insulting. The sky outside was moody, the kind of overcast that makes streetlights come on too early. I was home by 6, apron on, Spotify playing romantic dinner vibes, because apparently, I'm the kind of guy who still believes in setting a mood even when the audience has left the building. I cooked spaghetti, classic, reliable, emotionally stable spaghetti. I even added garlic bread, poured myself a glass of wine, and lit a candle because why not? If I was going to eat alone, I might as well make it look intentional. Romance level, Olive Garden with ambition. At 9:30 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text that read, "Still at my sister's. She's overwhelmed." I stared at it for a good 10 seconds, then typed back, "By you or by IKEA furniture?" No response. Classic. I took a long sip of wine and looked across the table at the empty chair opposite me, the one that used to hold laughter, conversation, and the occasional "Can you pass the salt?" Tonight, it held nothing but her absence and a faint perfume ghost that had haunted the house since Tuesday. "So," I said out loud, twirling spaghetti around my fork, "how was your day, Mark?" "Pretty solid, Mark," I answered myself. Got lied to before breakfast, but on the plus side, the coffee was strong. I laughed at my own joke, because when you live in a romantic comedy turned tragedy, you either find humor or find a therapist. And therapists don't cook spaghetti this good. Halfway through my meal, I scrolled through Instagram and saw a picture Claire's sister Lucy had just posted. She was in pajamas, hair up, watching Netflix with a cat in her lap. The caption said, "Self-Care Friday. Haven't left the house all day." I froze mid-bite. Self-Care Friday. Haven't left the house all day. Oh, well, look at that. Turns out the sister wasn't overwhelmed by furniture after all. Unless IKEA started delivering emotional support cats. I smiled. Not the happy kind of smile. The "oh, you just won a free trip to divorce court" kind of smile. I put my phone down, leaned back in my chair, and let the candle flicker like it was mocking me. "Well," I said, "guess the sister's been outsourced." I wasn't even angry anymore. Anger's too loud. I'd moved past it to that cold, calm place where everything starts feeling like an experiment. I was curious now. How deep was this hole she was digging? And how far was I willing to let her fall before I stopped pretending not to notice? After dinner, I washed the dishes. Yes, even the pots. Because if there's one thing betrayal doesn't cancel, it's good hygiene. The suds felt oddly therapeutic. You can't scrub away lies, but you can at least make your kitchen shine. By 10 o'clock, I was sitting on the couch, phone in hand, scrolling through memes because, honestly, if your marriage is crumbling, the internet's stupidity becomes a kind of comfort. One meme caught my eye. "Marriage is just two people texting each other on my way until one of you dies." I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my phone. Accurate, I said out loud. Except in my case, it's just one person lying about where they're going. The TV was still on in the background, some cooking show where a British guy was yelling about burnt risotto. I raised my glass to him. Preach, brother. Burn it all down. At 10:47, my phone buzzed again. Claire, just wrapping up here. Don't wait up. Oh, sweetheart. I wasn't waiting up. I was writing the screenplay. I typed back. Got it. Hope the house survives whatever emotional tornado you and Lucy are battling. No reply. And honestly, I didn't need one. Her silence said everything. Silence is the love language of liars. I finished my wine, turned off the TV, and walked upstairs. Her side of the bed looked like a museum exhibit, perfectly smooth, untouched, lying about its purpose. I looked at it for a long second before saying, at least someone's faithful. I got into bed, scrolled through photos on my phone, vacations, birthdays, her smile from better days. Every picture now felt like a screenshot from a deleted scene. You ever realize you're the only one still acting in a movie that's been canceled? That's what it felt like. The next morning, I decided to test a theory. She always came home around midnight smelling like fancy perfume and fabricated guilt. So, before she got in, I'd left her favorite coffee mug out on the counter and sprinkled a few coffee beans around it like some kind of forensic breadcrumb trail. If she came home and used it, I'd know. Sure enough, when I woke up at 6, there was lipstick on the rim. Fresh lipstick. Bright red. The kind she only wore to impress someone who wasn't me. I stood there staring at it, holding the mug like a detective with a clue. Well, I said, looks like the sister's into espresso now. Later that day, Marcus called while I was on the job site installing kitchen cabinets. You good, man? He asked. Define good, I said. If good means I made pasta for one and discovered my wife moonlights as Houdini, then yeah, I'm thriving. He chuckled. You sound like you're handling it. Oh, I'm handling it, I said. I'm even developing a system. Thursday, lie. Friday, guilt coffee. Saturday, fake apologies. Rinse, repeat. Want me to tail her car? Marcus joked. Tempting, I said, but no, I don't need to chase her. I'm patient. I'm collecting clues like Pokemon. That made him laugh. You're scary when you're calm. I know, I said. I scare myself sometimes. That weekend, I tried to act normal. We had breakfast together, her acting like nothing was wrong, me acting like I didn't know. It was marriage improv at its finest. So, I said, stirring my coffee, how's Lucy? She's good, Claire said quickly, not looking up from her phone. Still dealing with some stuff? Yeah, I said, saw her post about that stuff. Looked pretty cozy with that cat. Her eyes flicked up. You follow her? I smiled. Of course. Family, right? There was a pause, the kind of silence that feels like someone just tripped over their own lie. Then she laughed awkwardly, took a sip of coffee, and said, You're weird sometimes. Oh, sweetheart, I said. You have no idea. She left shortly after, claiming she had errands. I watched her car pull out of the driveway and disappear down the street, then sat there for a moment, my coffee cooling in my hand. I could have confronted her right then. I could have shouted, thrown accusations, demanded the truth. But where's the fun in that? No, I wanted her to think she was safe. I wanted her to keep lying until the story folded in on itself. You see, when you're married to someone who underestimates you, the best revenge is patience. That evening, I ordered takeout, burgers and fries, the comfort food of broken hearts, and ate on the porch while the sun went down. The neighborhood looked normal, peaceful. Nobody could tell that inside my house lived a man quietly planning an emotional sting operation. Around 9:45, she texted again, running late. I replied instantly. Let me guess, sister emergency? No reply. 10 minutes later, I sent another. Tell her I said hi. Again. Still nothing. So I turned my phone off. If she wanted to live in her fantasy world, fine. But I wasn't going to be the background character anymore. Before bed, I made a quiet decision. No more emotional spreadsheets, no more guessing games. It was time to switch strategies. Less husband of the year, more detective with a sense of humor. If she wanted to keep playing the sister excuse routine, I'd be the audience that finally asked for a refund. As I lay in bed, I thought about how ridiculous it all was. We'd build a life together. Mortgage, vacations, inside jokes, a stupid golden retriever we both adored. And now it all boiled down to lies disguised as errands. It's funny how betrayal doesn't come crashing through the door. It just tiptoes in, wearing perfume and saying, Don't wait up. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the quiet hum of the AC, and smiled. Because here's the thing. When people lie, they think they're getting away with it. They don't realize they're teaching you exactly how they move, how they talk, how they slip up. Claire was practically handing me the blueprint to her downfall. So yeah, that Friday night wasn't the end. It was the rehearsal dinner for the main event. And as I closed my eyes, I whispered, "All right, sweetheart, the curtain's rising soon." Because sometimes, the calmest dinners end up being the appetizer before the real drama hits the table. By the next Thursday, I'd stopped pretending I believed her. The performance was over. I was just watching the reruns for continuity errors. Same setting, same time, same script. Claire stood by the front door with that fake I'm being helpful smile and her tote bag, her version of a magician's hat. I could almost hear the theme music playing in my head. Previously, on the sister excuse routine, she cleared her throat. My sister needs help again. Something about her smoke detector or, curtains. Of course, curtains. The universal symbol for lies. I nodded slowly, my inner monologue doing jazz hands. Ah yes, the weekly crisis. I'll make sure to light a candle for her emotional stability. Her lips twitched. You're being sarcastic. Me? No way, I said. I'm just expressing gratitude that your sister's house is single-handedly keeping you in cardio shape. She sighed, probably wondering why I couldn't just stay dumb and compliant. Don't wait up, she said, kissing me on the cheek. The kiss felt like an apology pre-packaged in denial. When the door clicked shut, I didn't follow her right away. I took a sip of coffee, sat on the couch, and let the silence stretch. My gut told me it was time. No more spreadsheets, no more guesswork, time for hard data. I picked up my phone and called Marcus. He answered on the second ring, voice half asleep and half annoyed. "Mark, it's 6:30. Either you're bleeding or you're about to do something stupid." "Good guess," I said. "Remember that GPS tracker you installed on the company supply truck last year? You still got it." He groaned. "Man, what are you planning?" "Just data collection," I said, like a Fitbit for betrayal. There was silence, then a low whistle. "You're really going through with this?" "Oh yeah," I said. "If my wife's gonna treat me like a background extra, I might as well direct the damn movie." An hour later, I was standing in the garage, the small black tracker sitting on the workbench like a shiny little truth grenade. Marcus had dropped it off in a brown envelope labeled for science. I attached it discreetly under Claire's back bumper. Years of renovation work had made me good with tools. Turns out heartbreak just makes you creative with them. When I finished, I stood up, wiped my hands, and said to no one. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you install accountability. I went back inside, poured myself another coffee, and waited. At exactly 7:02 p.m., her little white Honda backed out of the driveway and disappeared down the street. I opened the tracking app on my phone and watched the blinking dot move like a heartbeat. For the first few miles, she headed toward her sister's neighborhood, and for a moment I thought maybe, just maybe, I was the world's biggest jerk. Then she passed the turnoff. My eyebrows shot up. Oh, look at that. The scenic route. She kept driving, past her sister's street, past the grocery store, past every possible excuse. The little dot stopped downtown, right at an upscale restaurant called the Garden Loft. My chest tightened, but not in that dramatic heartbreak way. More like when you're watching someone fail a test you already knew they hadn't studied for. I zoomed in on the map. The Garden Loft, polished wood, rooftop bar, mood lighting that screams confess your sins over cocktails. I'd been there before. Their truffle fries were good, their lies better. I grabbed my jacket, keys, and the last ounce of my dignity and drove downtown. No speeding, no music, no anger, just that eerie calm that hits you when you've stopped being surprised. The parking lot was half full, the kind of classy place where everyone's car payment is overdue but their outfits say otherwise. I parked a block away and watched from the corner. At 7:43, a familiar silhouette appeared under the restaurant's string lights. Claire. She stepped out of a taxi, because of course she did, and adjusted her dress. Not the helping my sister fix curtains dress. No, this was a soft blue number that could make a saint sin. Her hair was perfect, her perfume floated through the air like guilt in a floral disguise. Then came him. Tall, expensive haircut, blazer the color of arrogance. Her boss. I'd seen him once at the clinic's holiday party, the type of guy who probably uses his reflection as a screensaver. He smiled, said something, and she laughed. That laugh, the one that used to belong to me, the one she used to give when I said something stupid and she'd pretend it was adorable. Now it was his. I didn't take pictures at first. I just watched. They hugged, close and slow, like two people who'd stopped pretending. Then I pulled out my phone and snapped a few. Not because I wanted revenge, just because I wanted proof that I wasn't crazy. A part of me expected to feel shattered, to storm in there and make a scene. But I didn't. Instead, I laughed. Quietly, but deeply. Well, I muttered. The sister's been promoted to management. They went inside, hand brushing hand, and disappeared into the restaurant. I leaned against my car, staring at the glowing sign, and thought about how insane this all was. I'd spent weeks doubting myself, thinking I was paranoid, when all along, I was just observant. I texted Marcus a picture. Mark, found her. The sister's got a new name, Mr. Smoothblazer. Marcus, damn. You okay, man? Mark, never better. I'm just glad to see the data matches the hypothesis. He called me immediately. Bro, you sound way too calm for someone who just caught his wife cheating. Anger's inefficient, I said. You waste all your energy yelling instead of strategizing. Strategizing? Dude, this isn't a corporate merger. It's your marriage. Exactly, I said. And I'm about to divest my assets. He sighed. You're terrifying. I know, I said with a smile. That's what keeps me young. After I hung up, I sat in my car for a while, scrolling through the photos. Her leaning into him, his hand on her waist. The smile. That fake, rehearsed smile she'd been giving me for weeks, now repurposed for a man with a better suit. For a moment, something in me cracked. Not rage, just disappointment. Like realizing your favorite restaurant's been microwaving the food all along. I could have walked in, could have confronted them, flipped a table, gone viral on TikTok as that guy who lost it at the Garden Loft. But no, Claire had built this story carefully, and I wasn't about to ruin her big performance. Not yet. I waited until 10:15 p.m. when the tracker showed her car moving again. I followed from a distance, headlights dimmed, music off. She didn't head home right away. Nope. She took a little detour, a 20-minute stop at a hotel parking lot near the highway. I didn't need to guess. The dots connected themselves. When she finally pulled into our driveway close to midnight, I was already home, sitting in my armchair like a man watching the final episode of a long-running series. She walked in, trying to look casual. Hey, she said. Sorry, my sister. Needed help? Yeah, I interrupted softly. How's she doing? She froze. Just for a second, but I caught it. The micro-expression. The split second of oh crap. She's fine, Claire said. We got everything handled. Good, I said, sipping my coffee. Must have been exhausting. You should get some rest. She smiled weakly, kissed my cheek, and went upstairs. I sat there for another hour, staring at the wall. The house felt smaller, like her lies were eating the air. Eventually, I laughed, a quiet, tired laugh. Ah, the sister's house. The most magical property in America. Someone should list it on Zillow. 3 bedrooms, 1 kitchen, and unlimited excuses. Before going to bed, I opened my phone and looked at the map one more time. The blinking dot had stopped moving. She was asleep now. Dreaming, probably. I wondered if she dreamed about me anymore, or if I'd already been recast. I saved the screenshots, renamed the folder Garden Loft, Episode 1, and closed the app. Then I stared at the ceiling in the dark and whispered, All right, sweetheart. Curtains up soon. Enjoy your last Thursday as a free agent. Because I wasn't going to shout or throw punches. That's what amateurs do. I was going to wait, smile, and serve her karma with a side of pancakes. She'd never see it coming. And as sleep finally crept in, I couldn't help but grin at the absurdity of it all. My wife thought she was playing chess. Cute. I'd been quietly building the entire board. I didn't sleep that night, not because I was heartbroken, but because I was planning. You see, some people process betrayal with tears, others with whiskey. Me? I process it with breakfast food and strategy. Nothing says clarity like carbs. By sunrise, I'd brewed a pot of coffee strong enough to melt spoons and was pacing the kitchen like a man plotting an Ocean's 11-style emotional heist. The goal wasn't revenge. Well, not the petty kind. It was something quieter, smarter. I didn't want her crying or yelling or denying. I wanted her cornered by reality, one pancake at a time. That's when I thought of Lucy, Claire's actual sister. Sweet, blunt, allergic to drama, and completely unaware she'd been cast as the world's worst alibi. If anyone could help me execute Operation Pancake, it was her. I grabbed my phone, scrolled to her number, and hit call. She answered with the kind of early morning grogginess that could curdle milk. Mark? It's 7 a.m. Did someone die? Not yet, I said, pouring coffee into my mug. But a marriage is about to flatline. What? She mumbled. Long story. You busy tomorrow morning? There was a pause. Not really, why? I'm making pancakes. Bring your honesty. Mark, she sighed. This about Claire? Let's just say the syrup's gonna spill itself. Silence. Then, I'll be there. I smiled. Lucy wasn't one for confrontation, but she respected truth like it was a religion. All day, I went about work like nothing was wrong. Installed cabinets, fixed drywall, nodded along as Marcus made jokes about Detective Mark. But my mind was locked on the plan. Every detail mattered. The timing, the setting, the calm delivery. This wasn't going to be some loud, messy blowout. Oh no. This was going to be a quiet, elegant breakfast ambush. When I got home that night, Claire was on the couch pretending to scroll through her phone. She looked up, feigning casual. Hey, you're home early. It's 7, I said, dropping my keys in the bowl. Pretty standard for home early. She smiled awkwardly. Long day. Not as long as yours, I'm sure, I said lightly. You and your sister fixing the whole house now? Or just the curtains? Her eyes flicked up, just for a second. But it was enough. She, needed help moving some stuff. Of course, I said. Sister stuff? You two should start a reality show. Homewreckers and handymen. She frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, I said, smiling. Just sounds like good TV. She stared at me for a moment, trying to gauge whether I was joking. I was, technically, but not in the way she thought. I kissed her on the forehead and went upstairs, humming. That confused her even more. I wanted her uneasy. Guilt needs space to stretch before it snaps. By the next morning, everything was in motion. Lucy texted me at 7:05, leaving now. Should I bring anything? Just your conscience, I replied. At 7:30, I was flipping pancakes like a man possessed. I'm not even a breakfast guy, but when you're plotting poetic justice, you develop culinary talents fast. The smell of butter and maple syrup filled the air, comforting, disarming, and deeply ironic. I set the table for two, me and Lucy. Real plates, cloth napkins, the good coffee mugs. I wanted this to look domestic, peaceful, almost warm. Because nothing messes with a liar's head like normalcy used as a weapon. At exactly 7:58, Lucy knocked on the door. She looked like she hadn't slept either. Jeans, hoodie, ponytail, the I didn't come here to play outfit. Morning, I said. She stepped inside cautiously. You weren't kidding about pancakes. Told you. Operation Pancake in full swing. She blinked. You actually named it? Every great operation needs branding, I said, pouring her coffee. She gave a tired laugh, sat down, and looked around. So what exactly are we doing? Having breakfast, I said, waiting for a special guest. Her brows furrowed. You mean Claire? Yep. She texted last night. Said she'd be helping you this morning. So technically, you're the alibi. Lucy's mouth fell open. She told you that. Oh, yes, I said, flipping another pancake. Apparently, your house needs emotional support again. Lucy rubbed her temples. Mark, I had no idea. I swear I didn't. I smiled, handing her a plate. I believe you. You're the honest one in the family. That's why you're here. I just figured since you're such a vital part of her excuses, you might as well get breakfast out of it. She sighed, shaking her head. God, this is so messed up. Welcome to my life, I said cheerfully, sliding another pancake onto the stack. Syrup? She gave me a look that said you're way too calm for a man whose marriage is on fire. I shrugged. Anger's for amateurs. I prefer subtle humiliation. It lasts longer. By 8:15, the kitchen looked perfect, like a Norman Rockwell painting sponsored by Emotional Detachment. 2 plates of pancakes, a pot of coffee, and the faint hum of someone about to regret their life choices. Lucy sat quietly, sipping her coffee, glancing at the door every few seconds. You sure she's coming? Oh, she'll come, I said. Liars love consistency. Makes them feel safe. Right on cue, my phone buzzed. Claire. Hey, just heading to Lucy's now. I smirked. She's punctual. I'll give her that. Lucy groaned. I can't believe this. Believe it, I said. And enjoy your pancakes before the drama gets cold. We ate in silence for a few minutes, the clock ticking loudly enough to be dramatic. I wasn't nervous. I was serene, in that twisted way people get when they're about to prove they were right all along. Lucy looked up. You know, part of me hoped you were wrong. Me too, I said. But hope's like decaf coffee. Looks nice, does nothing. She snorted into her cup, trying not to laugh. You're ridiculous. Maybe, I said. But I'm also prepared. At 8:17, the sound of the garage door echoed through the house. My phone pinged again. Claire, at Lucy's. Wish me luck. Lucy stared at me, wide-eyed. Oh my God. I grinned. Showtime. We heard the car door, the soft click of heels, the jingle of keys. Claire's familiar rhythm. My pulse didn't spike, it steadied. She had no idea what she was walking into. The front door opened. Honey, she called, voice light, rehearsed. You up? In the kitchen, I said casually. She walked in, wearing a perfectly chosen outfit. Jeans, sweater, that subtle no-makeup look. She stopped dead in the doorway. Lucy, mid-bite, froze too. The room went silent except for the faint hiss of the skillet. Lucy, Claire said, her voice cracking slightly. Lucy put her fork down. Morning. Then her gaze shifted to me. Mark. I turned around slowly, spatula in hand, smiling like a man who'd just caught the season finale. Morning, sweetheart. Pancakes are ready. Thought we'd have breakfast with your sister before your big home project. Her face drained faster than my bank account on tax day. What are you talking about? Oh, you know, I said, flipping a pancake. Your sister. The one you've been helping every Thursday and Friday night. The one who's been overwhelmed with curtain rods and emotional support smoke detectors. Her eyes darted to Lucy, then back to me. This isn't funny. Oh, it's hilarious, I said. You just don't know the punchline yet. Lucy crossed her arms, her expression caught between pity and fury. Claire, she said quietly, what did you tell him last night? Claire opened her mouth, but no sound came out. I'll help you out, I said. You told me you were going to Lucy's to help her fix something. Lucy scoffed. I haven't seen you in 2 weeks. Claire blinked rapidly, her breathing shaky. I can explain. Fantastic, I said, setting down the spatula. Because these pancakes deserve a good story to go with them. Silence filled the room like fog. Lucy whispered, Mark, you really made pancakes for this? Oh, absolutely, I said. You can't serve the truth cold. Needs warmth, butter, and timing. Claire's lip trembled. Please, can we talk privately? I tilted my head. Privately? Without your actual sister present? The one you've been pretending to help every week. Lucy looked at me, then at her sister. Claire, you owe him honesty. At least once in your life. Claire's shoulders slumped. Lucy, please. But Lucy didn't budge. No. You dragged my name into your mess. Sit down. I leaned back, arms crossed. Don't worry, honey. We saved you the burnt pancake. Felt symbolic. Her eyes filled with tears, and for a split second, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Because the truth wasn't that she'd broken my heart. It was that she'd insulted my intelligence. And that, to me, was unforgivable. I poured myself another cup of coffee, looked her dead in the eye, and said, So, Claire, how's your boss? Saturday morning had the nerve to be beautiful. Sunlight leaking through the blinds, birds chirping, the kind of crisp air that usually makes people post grateful for another day selfies. Except in my kitchen, it wasn't gratitude floating in the air, it was tension thick enough to butter. I was up early, of course. I made coffee strong enough to revive a small nation and set the table for two. Lucy sat across from me, still half in disbelief that she'd just watched her sister get caught like a raccoon in a jewelry store. She kept looking at the door, like maybe Claire would walk in and this whole thing would reset, like a bad sitcom that refuses to get canceled. What exactly are we doing again? Lucy asked finally, fingers wrapped around her coffee mug. Having breakfast, I said, flipping another pancake onto a plate. Waiting for the sequel. The sequel? Yeah, I said. You saw the pilot episode yesterday. Ratings were good. Time to see if she renews her lies for another season. Lucy rolled her eyes, but I caught the small grin. You're way too calm for someone in your situation. Calm? I laughed. Oh, I'm not calm. I'm caffeinated and petty. Big difference. The sound of the garage door opening at 8:17 cut our banter short. Claire's punctuality was suddenly less endearing and more incriminating. My phone pinged a second later, leaving Lucy's now. Lucy looked at me like she wanted to throw the mug. She texted that to you? Oh yeah, I said, grinning. Right on schedule. Claire had always loved punctuality. She'd show up early to weddings, flights, even dentist appointments. I guess cheating was no exception. I poured Lucy another cup of coffee. Relax. Just let me handle it. The goal isn't yelling, it's clarity. Lucy muttered. You sound like a therapist with vengeance issues. Thank you, I said. I've been working on that. The kitchen was immaculate. 2 plates of pancakes on the counter, syrup bottle shining like it was auditioning for a commercial. The smell of butter, cinnamon, and confrontation filled the room. The front door opened, and the sound of her heels clicked against the tile, steady, rehearsed. She walked in, the definition of controlled chaos. Hair slightly messy, makeup perfect, clothes casual enough to pass as innocent. But her eyes, those gave it away. Wide, nervous, darting around like she was trying to calculate her way out of a maze. Morning, I said casually, setting a plate on the table. Coffee's hot, syrup's cold, lie's optional. Claire froze when she saw Lucy sitting there. Lucy? What are you? Morning, Lucy said, voice sharper than I'd ever heard it. Claire blinked. You're here? Lucy raised an eyebrow. Yeah, weird, right? Since I was apparently with you all night. Claire's mouth opened, closed, opened again. I'd seen less stammering at open mic nights. I slid a plate of pancakes toward her. Have a seat, sweetheart. Breakfast is the most important meal of the confrontation. Mark, please, she said softly. Can we not do this? Oh, we can absolutely do this, I said. We have pancakes, witnesses, and enough irony to fill a TED Talk. She hesitated before sitting down, her eyes flicking to Lucy. I didn't know you'd be here. Lucy took a calm sip of coffee. Yeah, I bet. For a few seconds, the only sound was the faint clink of my fork against the plate. I spread butter on my pancakes slowly, methodically, like a man who'd already won and was just waiting for the credits to roll. Claire finally broke. Mark, I didn't mean for it to go this far. Define far, I said, not looking up. Because we've officially passed curtain rods and entered hotel territory. She flinched. You were following me? Technically, a GPS tracker was, I said. But yes, I was in the audience. You should have waved. Her mouth fell open. You tracked my car? I nodded. Yeah, you left me no choice. You were setting attendance records at the sister house of make-believe. Lucy groaned quietly, rubbing her temples. God, Claire. Claire turned to her sister, desperation in her eyes. You don't understand. No, Lucy interrupted. I think I understand perfectly. You used me as your cover. You lied to both of us. That's not just cruel, it's lazy. Claire's face crumpled. Everything got complicated, okay? Complicated, I said, laughing softly. That's what people call it when they run out of adjectives for guilt. She looked at me with tears starting to well up. Mark, please. I made a mistake. You made a pattern, I said, leaning back in my chair. A mistake is tripping once. A pattern is building a staircase. Lucy gave a low whistle. Damn. Claire reached across the table, but I didn't move. Mark, I love you. I was just lost. I smiled faintly. You weren't lost, Claire. You had GPS. You just preferred a different destination. For a moment, the kitchen was silent again, except for the faint ticking of the wall clock and the low hum of the fridge, domestic sounds now weaponized by awkward truth. Lucy cleared her throat. You know, for what it's worth, I'm really sorry, Mark. I should have noticed. I shrugged. Not your fault. I'm the idiot who believed in Thursday nights and sisterly devotion. Claire wiped her eyes. I didn't plan it. It just happened. Oh sure, I said. Because tripping and falling into your boss's arms is the new yoga. She winced. You're being cruel. No, I said calmly. I'm being accurate. Lucy stood up. I'll give you 2 a minute. I shook my head. No, stay. You're part of the story now. Claire buried her face in her hands. I can't do this with her here. Yeah, that's kind of the point, I said. It's easy to lie when no one's watching. Harder when the person you lied about is sitting right in front of you with a fork. Lucy crossed her arms. So what happens now? Oh, I already have a plan, I said. Step 1, clarity. Step 2, closure. Step 3, cleaning the kitchen, because emotional warfare gets messy. Claire finally looked up, eyes red. I swear, I didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't, I said. You disappointed me. There's a difference. Hurt fades. Disappointment lingers, like cologne on a liar's coat. She blinked. Are you quoting something? Yeah, I said. Myself. I'm thinking of publishing it under things husbands say right before they file. Lucy made a noise halfway between a laugh and a sob. You two are unbelievable. I smiled at her. Family resemblance. Claire shook her head. You can't just throw this all away. We have years together, a life. Memories, I corrected. We had a life. What you've got now is an empty house and a husband who makes excellent pancakes, but terrible blind faith. She pushed her plate away, hands trembling. I don't know what you want from me. Accountability, I said, but I'll settle for silence. Her lower lip quivered. Mark, please. I stood up, collecting plates. Eat. Don't eat. Whatever you want. But the next time you use the word sister, make sure it doesn't come with a side of deceit. Lucy stood too, looking torn. Mark, I'll go. You need space. Nah, I said. Space is overrated. I just need peace. And pancakes, apparently. Claire rose slowly, eyes glassy, hands clasped like she was praying for a rewrite. Can we at least talk later? Sure, I said, picking up my coffee. But just so we're clear, it'll be the kind of talk where one of us brings closure and the other brings boxes. That one hit hard. She froze, then sat back down, defeated. Lucy whispered, You really planned this, didn't you? I nodded. Yep. I figured if she was going to keep lying through dinner, I'd serve her the truth at breakfast. Claire whispered something I couldn't hear, voice breaking. What was that? I asked. She met my gaze, tear-streaked, but steady. I said I'm sorry. I sighed. I know. You said it before. But apologies without change are just air fresheners in a burning house. She broke then. Tears, shaking shoulders, all of it. Lucy reached over to comfort her, but I stopped her gently. Let her sit with it. She's been comfortable for too long. It wasn't vindictive, it was necessary. She needed to feel the silence she'd created, the distance she'd built one excuse at a time. After a few long minutes, I started clearing the table. Plates, cups, crumbs. Routine. Normalcy. The kind of mundane task that somehow feels sacred after chaos. Lucy stood beside me, drying dishes. You sure you're okay? I smiled faintly. Define okay. Not planning murder? Then yeah, I'm fantastic. She huffed a laugh. You're something else, Mark. I get that a lot, I said, stacking the plates. Mostly from people who regret underestimating me. Behind us, Claire whispered. Mark, please don't hate me. I paused, turned to face her. I don't hate you, Claire. Hate's too passionate for what's left. I just don't care enough anymore. Her face crumbled. You don't mean that. Oh, I do, I said softly. Because indifference is the last stage of love, right before paperwork. Lucy shot me a look. That was cold. Therapeutic, I said. I turned back to the sink, rinsing the last fork. The sunlight caught the window just right, washing the room in gold like nothing bad had ever happened here. And for a moment, I felt it, the peace that comes after truth. Claire sat quietly, sniffling, staring at the pancakes she hadn't touched. Lucy gave me a subtle nod, part approval, part heartbreak. And me? I just dried my hands, took a sip of coffee, and said, well, that went better than expected. Anyone want seconds? At 8:17 a.m., right on cue, the garage door rumbled like a drum roll announcing someone's final performance. I didn't even flinch this time. I just took a sip of my coffee, leaned against the counter, and waited. Lucy glanced at me from across the kitchen table, nervous, eyes darting like we were about to summon a ghost. Still sure about this? She whispered. Oh yeah, I said, setting my mug down. If she's gonna lie, she might as well do it in front of an audience. It builds character. Lucy frowned. This feels cruel. It's not cruel, I said. It's accountability, just served hot. The door from the garage creaked open, and there it was, the sound of her heels tapping across the tile. That rhythm I used to find comforting now made my stomach tighten. She walked in, looking polished as ever, like she'd walked straight out of a lifestyle commercial. Jeans, cream sweater, hair messy but not really. Makeup that said, I woke up like this, even though we both knew Sephora was involved. She stopped mid-step. Her smile froze like bad Wi-Fi when she saw Lucy sitting at the table, sipping coffee like she'd been there forever. Lucy, Claire said, blinking. What are you doing here? Lucy didn't even look up. Morning. Claire's eyes darted between us like she was watching a tennis match she didn't remember signing up for. Wait, what's going on? I smiled. The calm smile of a man whose emotional dam had already burst and drained days ago. Oh, just breakfast. Thought we'd all enjoy some family time before your next big renovation project at your sister's house." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. For a split second, I could see her brain flipping through excuses like a Rolodex. She went with denial. "What are you talking about?" "Come on," I said. "Let's not pretend we don't know what day it is. It's Thursday, also known as Sister Night, or as I like to call it, Casual Betrayal Hour." Her lips parted again, but nothing came out except air. The silence stretched long enough to make even the fridge hum feel judgmental. Lucy sighed, breaking it. "She told you she was with me again, didn't she?" I nodded. "Yep. Last night. Said you were overwhelmed and needed help." Lucy leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. "That's funny. I was at home binge-watching baking shows and questioning my life choices." The color drained from Claire's face. "Mark, please, this isn't what it looks like." I finished for her, smirking. "You're right. It's worse. Because it's what it is." Her voice cracked. "You don't understand." "Oh, I understand plenty," I said, leaning forward. "I understand GPS coordinates, timestamps, restaurant receipts, and hotel parking lots. I understand that my marriage has better attendance at the garden loft than our anniversary dinner did." Her eyes widened. "You followed me." "Tracked," I corrected. "There's a difference. Following's emotional. Tracking's scientific." Lucy nearly choked on her coffee. "Oh my God." Claire's voice trembled. "Mark, please, can we talk privately?" "Oh, you mean without your sister here? The one you've been helping every week?" I said. "No, I think she deserves front row seats. After all, she's been unknowingly cast as your stunt double." Lucy frowned at her sister. "Claire, seriously?" Claire's hands shook. "Lucy, I swear I didn't." "Don't." Lucy cut in sharply. "You used my name. You dragged me into your mess. You lied to the one person who's done nothing but treat you like you mattered. And for what? A guy in a blazer who probably quotes leadership books for fun." That one hit hard. I could see it in Claire's eyes, the sting of being called out by the one person she thought would protect her. I crossed my arms. "So, sweetheart, you want to explain to us how your boss ended up being part of your home improvement project? Because I'm dying to know what tool he brought." She winced. "You're being cruel." "No, I'm being creative," I said. "There's a difference. Cruelty's messy. Creativity's about precision." Lucy muttered under her breath. "You're terrifying when you're calm." "Thank you," I said. Claire tried again, voice breaking. "Mark, it wasn't like that. It just happened." I laughed quietly. "Oh, the classic just happened defense. Let me guess, gravity, right? You tripped, fell into his arms, and one thing led to adultery." She stood there, shaking, trying to find words. "You're twisting everything." "Am I?" I said. "Because from where I'm standing, everything's untwisting just fine." Lucy stood slowly, setting her mug down. "You know, Claire, I didn't even want to come here today. But Mark called me, told me what was going on, and I couldn't believe it. I told myself, no way, not my sister, not Claire." She sighed. I stayed silent, letting Lucy handle that part. She was better at emotional shaming than I was. My specialty was sarcastic commentary. When the silence fell again, I walked to the table, set down my coffee, and said, "Look, Claire, I didn't ask for perfection. I asked for honesty. And you couldn't even give me that. So you know what? Breakfast seemed like the least painful way to serve the truth." She sobbed quietly. "I didn't mean for it to happen, Mark." "Yeah," I said. "People rarely schedule stupidity. It just kind of RSVPs itself." She covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. For a split second, I almost pitied her. Then I remembered the photo of her and Mr. Smooth Blazer under those glowing patio lights, her smile brighter than I'd seen in months. And just like that, pity evaporated. Lucy reached across the table and put a hand on my arm. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. "Yes," I said softly. "I do." I turned back to Claire. "You want to know what hurts most? It's not the cheating. It's the effort you put into lying. The planning, the coordination, the timing. If you'd applied half that energy to our marriage, we'd be unstoppable." She shook her head. "You don't know how lonely I was." "Oh, please," I said, rolling my eyes. "You weren't lonely, Claire. You were bored. Big difference. Loneliness makes you reach out. Boredom makes you reach downward." Lucy stood then, her face pale. "I can't listen to this anymore." "Stay," I said. "We're almost done." Claire looked at me helplessly. "Mark, please, I love you." I took a long breath, studying her face, the one I'd memorized years ago, back when I believed she was my forever person. Now all I saw were cracks where the truth had leaked out. Maybe you did, I said finally. Or maybe you just love the version of me who didn't ask questions. She whispered, "You've changed." Yeah, I said. Turns out betrayal's an excellent self-improvement program. Lucy exhaled sharply. He's not wrong. Claire looked between us, her face crumpling. What do you want me to say? How about the truth? I said, unedited, unrehearsed, unfiltered. Just once. She hesitated, then whispered, "It's been going on for months." Lucy gasped. I didn't move. Wow. Honesty looks good on you. Should have tried it sooner. She cried harder. I wanted to tell you, but I didn't know how. Usually, it starts with words, I said. You open your mouth and speak them. Revolutionary concept. Lucy muttered, "Mark." I held up a hand. No, she needs to hear this. Because she's been living like the truth's optional. It's not. It's the rent you pay for your place in someone's heart. That broke her. She sobbed into her hands, shoulders trembling. I let her. After a long silence, I stood, picked up the car keys, and said, "You know, Claire, I hope he's worth it. Because the next time you walk through that door, it won't open for you." Lucy looked at me, shocked. "Mark," I turned to her. "Thanks for being here. Really, you didn't sign up for this circus, but at least someone honest showed up today." Claire reached for me one last time. "Please, can we talk later?" I met her eyes, calm, steady. "You can talk to my lawyer later. He's great at listening." Then I walked past her, through that same door she'd just come in from, the morning light hitting me in the face. It felt like oxygen. Behind me, I heard Lucy's quiet voice. "He warned you, Claire." And as I stepped outside, I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I finally felt free. The door shut softly behind me. Lucy sat frozen at the table, fork halfway to her mouth, eyes darting between us like a referee at a boxing match who'd rather be anywhere else. I laid my phone on the table like a weapon I didn't even need to use anymore. The screen glowed with pictures from the garden loft. Her and Mr. Smooth Blazer, hands brushing, heads close, smiles that used to belong to me. No shouting, no slamming, no dramatic soap opera energy. Just the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the sound of my heart finally switching from disbelief to detachment. She stared at the phone. Her voice came out small, shaky. "Mark, I didn't mean for it to happen." "Yeah," I said, stirring my coffee. People rarely schedule stupidity. It just kind of sneaks onto the calendar. Her lips trembled. "Please, you have to believe me." "Oh, I do," I said, leaning back. "I believe you didn't mean for it to happen the first time. But the second? The fifth? The 10th? Yeah, that takes effort. You had to put on perfume, coordinate schedules, and remember which lie you told me last Thursday. That's not an accident, sweetheart. That's logistics." Lucy shifted in her seat, eyes full of the kind of secondhand pain that doesn't belong to her but still hurts. "Claire," she said softly, "you owe him honesty. At least once." Claire turned toward her sister, tears pooling. "Lucy, please don't do this." "Don't do what?" Lucy said sharply. "Be the one person in this room not pretending anymore." That hit harder than I expected. Lucy's voice cracked, but her words didn't. She looked at me and then back at her sister. "You dragged me into this. You used me as your excuse. I was your shield. And for what? So you could play house with your boss while your husband made pancakes." Claire's tears spilled. "It's not like that." "Oh, it's exactly like that," I said. "I've got the pictures, timestamps, and one very patient GPS tracker that would disagree with you." She glanced down at the photos again, her breath hitching. "I made a mistake." I took a long sip of coffee and smiled faintly. "You keep calling it that. You know, if mistakes came with frequent flyer miles, you'd be in business class by now." Lucy put her fork down. "Mark, maybe you should." "No," I said calmly. "We're finishing breakfast. The truth deserves a full course." Claire wiped her face, shaking her head. "Please, not in front of her. Can't we just talk privately?" I laughed softly. "Privately? You mean like those private dinners downtown? Or those private hotel detours on the way home from your sisters?" Her mouth opened, but no words followed. Lucy stood abruptly, her chair scraping the tile. "I can't sit here." I gestured toward her seat. "Actually, I think you should. You deserve to see how your name's been used as a hall pass for months." Claire glared at me through her tears. "You're enjoying this." "Enjoying?" I said. No. I'm savoring it. Like that first sip of coffee after a month of drinking decaf lies. She slammed her hand on the table. God, you're so smug. Smug? I shrugged. Nah, just well-informed. Lucy exhaled slowly. Claire, he has every right. Claire's voice cracked again. Lucy, stay out of this. Lucy crossed her arms. No, you made me part of it. For a second, no one spoke. The sunlight coming through the kitchen window made everything look too normal for what was happening. The maple syrup bottle gleamed like a tiny golden trophy of irony. I looked at Claire, my voice steady. You know, I used to wake up every morning thinking you were the best part of my day. Turns out, you were the best liar I've ever met. She broke then, full sobs shaking her shoulders. Stop. Please. Why? I asked. You stopped caring about my feelings months ago. Why should I protect yours now? Her sobs filled the room. I didn't look away. This wasn't cruelty. It was consequence. Lucy stepped closer, her voice quiet but sharp. You should have told him. If you were unhappy, you should have left. You don't burn the house down just because you're cold. Claire whispered. I know. Do you? I asked. Because every time you walked through that door and smiled at me, you built another lie. You didn't just cheat. You rehearsed. She covered her face again. I was scared. I leaned forward. Of what? Honesty? Accountability? Or maybe just being alone without someone to feed your ego? Lucy winced. Okay, maybe that's enough. No, I said, turning to her. It's not. Because this right here, this silence, is the only moment of truth we've had in months. I looked back at Claire, who was staring down at her hands. You always said communication was key. Well, congratulations. The door's open, and I'm talking. She looked up, eyes red. What do you want me to say? How about the truth? I said. All of it. Not the pretty version. The one you don't post about. The one that smells like his cologne and sounds like lies whispered between drinks. She let out a long, shaky breath. It started after that fight we had about your job. I felt like you were drifting, like you didn't see me anymore. I nodded. Ah, the classic, you made me cheat by existing defense. I was waiting for that one. She flinched. It's not an excuse. Good, I said. Because excuses are what got you here. Lucy shook her head. Claire, you can't justify this. You're just making it worse. Claire looked between us, desperate. I loved him, okay? Or at least I thought I did. The words hit like a punch, but not the painful kind. The clarifying kind. The one that makes everything make sense in the worst way possible. I nodded slowly. There it is. Finally, the truth. She started crying harder. Mark, please. I cut her off gently. No, don't please me. You wanted honesty? This is what it feels like. Unfiltered, unflattering, and long overdue. Lucy whispered, You're handling this better than I ever could. I smiled faintly. That's because I already did the falling apart part weeks ago. I just hadn't told anyone. The kitchen clock ticked like it was mocking us. 8:42 a.m. The longest breakfast of my life. Claire finally stood, wiping her tears. So what now? You're just going to hate me forever. Hate takes energy, I said. I'm saving mine for rebuilding. Her chin quivered. Rebuilding what? My peace, I said. You destroyed my trust, not my capacity for pancakes. Lucy gave me a look that was equal parts admiration and heartbreak. You really are something else, Mark. Yeah, I said, apparently too boring to compete with a man who wears tailored suits and thinks subtlety is foreplay. That actually made Lucy laugh through her tears. Even Claire cracked a sad smile, like her body couldn't help but react to humor even while crumbling. For a moment, I almost softened. Almost. But then I remembered the text that started it all, the perfume that didn't belong, the way she kissed me goodnight with someone else's name sitting behind her lips. I picked up the phone again and tapped the screen to black. I'm not going to ruin your life, Claire. You did that yourself. I'm just setting the table for honesty. She looked at me helplessly. I don't know how to fix this. You don't, I said simply. You move on. Preferably without dragging your sister or me into your cover stories next time. Lucy grabbed her purse. I think I should go. You two need space. Yeah, I said softly. But not the kind you can fix with curtains. She hesitated, then hugged me. You didn't deserve this. I know, I said. But sometimes life serves you burnt pancakes and calls it breakfast. She left quietly, the front door clicking shut behind her. That left just the two of us. Me and Claire. The silence between us had weight now, like gravity. I turned to her one last time. You know what's funny? I believed you every single time you said, I'll be late tonight. I even used to text you drive safe. She nodded weakly. You're a good man. Yeah, I said. And that used to be enough for you. She whispered, I'm sorry. I smiled faintly. Don't be sorry over breakfast. The eggs didn't cheat on you. That line hit her like a wave. She laughed, half sob, half broken giggle. Then she sank back into the chair, staring at the table like she wished she could crawl under it. I grabbed my jacket, sliding my keys into my pocket. Eat if you want, I said. At least something good came out of this morning. She looked up. Where are you going? To work, I said. Some people still need me to build things that last. As I reached the door, she whispered, Mark, do you hate me? I stopped, hand on the knob. No, I said. You're not worth that much emotion anymore. And then I stepped outside, the morning sun hitting my face. It smelled like coffee, syrup, and closure. Inside, through the window, I saw her still sitting at the table, staring at a plate she couldn't eat and a life she'd just broken. For the first time in weeks, I exhaled. Breakfast was over. The truth was served. The house felt too clean, too quiet, the kind of quiet that settles after a storm clears out all the debris. I sat at the kitchen table with a manila folder in front of me. Divorce papers Tony, my cousin/lawyer, had drafted overnight. They looked ordinary, like any stack of documents, but they carried more weight than the walls around me. When Claire walked in, her eyes were puffy, her voice small. You already did this. Preparation is my love language, I said, sliding the papers toward her. Consider it closure with formatting. She sat down, staring at her name printed beside mine for what felt like the last time. I can't believe it's ending like this. I shrugged. I didn't pick the ending. You wrote it, one lie at a time. She looked at me through tears. Mark, please. I held up a hand. Don't. We've said enough. This is the quiet part now. For a long moment, she didn't move. Then she picked up the pen, signed her name, and pushed the papers back. Lucy had come by earlier. She waited by the door, silent witness to the inevitable. When it was done, she placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. You sure you're okay? I nodded. I've got pancakes, closure, and a sister-in-law who can cook next time. Claire stood, clutching her tote bag like it might save her. I'm sorry, she whispered. Don't be, I said, opening the door. Just don't reuse the excuse. Your sister's booked for breakfast indefinitely. She hesitated, then walked out, the sound of her heels fading into the distance. And for the first time in months, the silence that followed didn't feel heavy. It felt earned. After she left, the house finally exhaled. Not the suffocating kind of quiet, the peaceful kind, the kind that hums like a sigh of relief. I stood in the living room, looking around at the space that had once been cluttered with her shoes, her laughter, her half-finished projects. It felt bigger now. Or maybe it was just lighter, like the air had decided it didn't need to carry her perfume anymore. I poured myself a coffee, took it to the porch, and watched the sunlight stretch across the yard. Funny thing about freedom, it doesn't come with fireworks. It shows up in tiny, quiet ways. No more checking your phone. No more pretending to believe someone's half-hearted story. No more Thursday night reruns of Helping My Sister. My phone buzzed. Marcus, job's done. I texted back. Both renovation and marriage. He replied in seconds. Congrats. Which one was harder? I grinned. The drywall had fewer cracks. That got a laughing emoji. Typical Marcus. Practical, loyal, the kind of guy who could build a house and a punchline in the same day. Weeks passed. Lucy stopped by one Saturday with groceries, pancake mix, syrup, and that look only people with both sympathy and respect can give. We talked. We laughed. We even joked about the absurdity of it all. She said, guess her home repairs are on hold indefinitely. I smirked. Guess so. I finally fixed something that was really broke in me. Life didn't turn cinematic after that. No dramatic music, no sudden happiness montage. Just small, good things, mornings without lies, nights without questions, peace that didn't need permission to exist. Sometimes, people ask me about her. I just smile and say, she's somewhere out there, probably helping someone else's sister. But whenever I hear someone mention working late or family emergencies, I can't help but grin and ask, with her sister or her boss? Because trust me, Breakfast told me everything dinner never did. And in that clean, quiet house with a stack of legal papers tucked neatly in a drawer, I finally felt something that had been missing for a long, long time myself.